What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here. We are live back with another Tottenham update. Hope you guys are all doing well out there in the chat, in the footballing world. It is an exciting time. Thomas Frank has been appointed. It's a new era upon us at Tottenham Hotspur, and there is potential hijacks upon us. Ben is not with us today. Unfortunately, he has got other plans, something better to do, apparently, Ben's got. But we have the brilliant, the Frankaholic himself, Mr. Brian Dale, in the house to talk about all things Tottenham that are happening today. How are we doing today, Brian?
Wonderful. Wonderful. I hope you are, and everyone in the chat. What a hijack. What a hijack straight out the gate.
We could be seeing the first evidence of Frank pull, the Frank gravitational pull. You can't resist it. And we're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into all of that in a moment. Hope everyone is doing very, very well in the chat. I guess we'll get into the big breaking news at the moment in regards to Brian Mbeumo. A lot of chat about Brian Mbeumo today, Brian. And the news is coming from Sky Sports News. Brian Mbeumo, Tottenham have held initial discussions with Brentford about a deal for Brian Mbeumo. Mbeumo is understood to be more intrigued by a move to Tottenham now that Thomas Frank has become their head coach. Tottenham have received encouragement about a potential deal now that the Dane has made the switch to North London. Football Insider are saying Tottenham remain in competition to hijack Man United's move for Brentford's forward Brian Mbeumo. And TBR Football's own Graham Bailey says TBR Football can confirm that Tottenham could still have a chance of signing Brian Mbeumo ahead of Man United. Mbeumo is known to be very happy in London, but United still regarded as the favourites to land him. That could be absolutely massive news. I was saying to Ben yesterday, it's gone suspiciously quiet with Brian Mbeumo and Man United. We heard about 10 days ago now that Mbeumo's chosen Man United. That's his preferred choice. David Ornstein with a big bomber saying, he's pretty much he's heading to United. Man United fans were doing live streams celebrating that they've got Mbeumo. But ever since that confirmation of that story, we've not heard much. We've had a few stories about personal terms. Yeah, and now, with 10 days after that, we've gone very, very quiet with Mbeumo to Man United. Frank has been appointed at Tottenham as of yesterday. And now we're hearing stories that Mbeumo is looking at that Tottenham project with Frank at the helm, thinking, maybe I shouldn't rule that out completely. What do you think, Brian?
Well, there's a few things to unpack here. First of all, you mentioned yesterday with Darren Lewis putting the eyes on his tweet, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Saying that happened during your live yesterday. And then I think we spoke a few times in the late night shows you're doing when we were trying to weigh up what's the bigger pull from going to Manchester United, which he claims to be a supporter as a youngster, or moving across London with the manager that has made you the player you are. And there's going to be a lot of people, and I understand it, with people saying we're not going to get him, this is Tottenham and Daniel Levy, and it's always the grey cloud. But as we've been saying, the board members have changed. Maybe something is going on at Tottenham and they will be making a statement signing. Still a long way to go in this, but this would be a massive, massive statement signing for Tottenham, taking him away from Manchester United, one thing. And second of all, showing that Thomas Frank has brought in his, what you would imagine is his number one. It's big news. I think there is some weight to it. Now, seeing that Sky Sports is all over it as well, there's something in it. Now it's just a wait and see. But if he does sign, that is a massive step in the right direction for Tottenham Hotspur, and it will put more fuel on the fire that maybe something higher up is really going to be changing very, very soon. So we'll have to wait and see. But my God, would he be good in this Tottenham side?
Unbelievable. What's quite interesting, I feel, about this story in regards to the fact that it's Sky Sports reporting it. It's Sky Sports, I think, if people have been paying attention to kind of football transferring world in the last, I don't know, decade, I would say maybe half a decade, Sky actually rarely break stories anymore. Usually they're the ones jumping off the back of other journalists who report things, and then they're the ones who like confirm stories. They are calling this an exclusive, and one of their journalists is the one who's broken this story, essentially. So the fact that that has happened kind of gives me a bit more hope that maybe there's something really serious about this, and maybe there is really something to it. In fact, as well, Graham Bailey says he's very happy in London in Mbeumo. You know, does he want to move to Manchester? Or of course, he's a Man United fan from young. That's what's been reported. But if you're talking about his career, he's got a chance to be on the Champions League stage immediately. However good Man United might be next season, there's no guarantee they'll be in the Champions League even next season, let alone, obviously, definitely not this season. There's no guarantee they're going to be in there next season. He's got a chance to be with a manager who knows how to get the best out of him. He's gotten where he is at the moment in terms of now he's a Premier League forward who gets regularly at least 15, 20 goals last season, and probably gets more, knows how to get the best out of him. He knows when he looks at Tottenham team, there's a spot for him right there on that right wing where he's going to fit very, very nicely. I know Brennan Johnson scored a lot of goals, but and Mbeumo, I think, will fancy his chances, to say the least, to have that spot. He's going to have the platform of being in the Champions League immediately. And he's going to come to a club, still a pretty big-sized club who are got a lovely stadium. Still, you can remain in London, and you get on well with the manager. So there is a lot of going for us, I would say, in this deal. Now, obviously, going against us, will Man United offer more money in the wage packet? He's a Man United fan. Obviously, an opportunity to kind of be part of that story where he takes Man United from where they are back to the top, all that kind of stuff. Ruben Amorim's formation, does that really suit him? Yeah, I think those are obviously things going against us, and Graham Bailey claims that Man United are still the favourites. But, I mean, there's a lot going for us in this deal, isn't it, Brian? Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the lure of London and him being settled in London is always a big thing we say for players. Thomas Frank is a massive pull for him, which is great to see that, and that's made him have maybe a change of heart. And what you mentioned as well with Brennan Johnson, I personally think he's going to move Brennan Johnson more central anyway. So there is a clear path to that right wing, and like you said, he will know Thomas Frank's training, Thomas Frank's methods, Thomas Frank's. He'll be able to also, all this noise of player unrest, he can have an ally in there that will put it all to rest and put it all to bed immediately. Like I said, there is a long way to go. And of course, this is Tottenham, and we'll see what happens. And it will be a clear indication for me if something changes. But what he will bring to our team, like I said, Brennan Johnson has got the goals, but his goals involvement, his movement off the ball is something that our right wing currently doesn't offer. It will be a sensational swoop if we manage to get this off. And what a way to mark the Thomas Frank era.
It will be incredible. The Thomas Frank pull would be something that would be very, very exciting, I think, for everyone. If we were to get someone like Bryan Mbeumo in early, that would be a phenomenal piece of business. And I've been saying to Ben, I feel like personally, given who Frank is and why we brought him in, I do get the feeling that I do get the feeling that we're not going to have a summer where we sign loads of big money signings. That's just the feeling I get. But I also feel like someone like Mbeumo, I think Frank doesn't have to look at the squad or look at the players to know he wants Mbeumo. Mbeumo's one, he knows how good he is. He's managed him before, so that's one we can kind of go for without Frank having to have done an audit of the squad, knowing who he wants to keep or not. He knows that Mbeumo is going to be an upgrade. He knows how good he is and the character and the temperament of him. So I feel like this kind of deal is one that we could go for before pre-season very, very easily. Yeah,
for me, it just ticks all the boxes, isn't it? And a lot of people would have been saying, "Oh, he's come here to work on a budget. He's come here. He's going to just do." Well, this is not going to be a budget signing, is it? This is going to be. You would imagine around about the Solanke and Dembele kind of transfer fee, and like you said, when we've looked at this squad, I'm fully confident that Frank will develop the players and look into them and know his squad. I think we only need 2 or 3 signings. I honestly think we just need 2 or 3 signings, whether it's of this magnitude or just a tier below, and this team has great shape to it. But like you said, everything you said about Mbeumo and being the perfect player for what he needs and what Spurs are lacking, it's the right player, isn't it?
Absolutely, and it's a player that will get everyone very, very excited. If there is a possibility we can bring someone like him in, it's super exciting. We need someone with that kind of quality on that right wing, and let's hope that we can. There is truth to it, and we can get it done. There is some suggestion, I think, mainly from Man United fans, that is this Brentford leaking this to the media to try and drive up Man United's or hurry Man United up in terms of their kind of money, the deal they're trying to get more money out of them, trying to basically claim that Tottenham are interested to try and get United to panic and put the money on the table. Do you think that's true, or do you think there is genuine interest from Tottenham?
Do you know what? We've been used so many times in that kind of thing, haven't we? Where we put the money in and it snaps someone into reality. Could it be that again? I really hope. Do you know what? If it hadn't had the Thomas Frank and Mbeumo office connection, I would have been feeling exactly the same. But I just think with it being Thomas Frank confirmed there, I think there is a lot to this. Whether Spurs can get it over the line is the big question. But we're going to have to wait and see how this develops. But you can't deny when you mentioned that. Could this be Man U trying to get Brentford trying to get Man U to come to the table quicker? There's every possibility it could be, but I just think with the Thomas Frank pull, there could be more to it than meets the eye.
100%. Well, let's see if this Bryan Mbeumo hijack will kind of snowball over the next few days. There definitely seems to be a few more reports coming out over the last few minutes since Sky Sports have been breaking the news. Seems as though more and more outlets will have to concede, maybe not the most reliable outlets, but some outlets are definitely jumping on the back of it, confirming the story. But we'll have to wait and see if there is any truth to it. We'll move on to the next story, talking about Matthias Tell. Bayern director Max Ebel has said on Matthias Tell that we're speaking to Tottenham. That's no secret, and we'll see what happens. So it looks as though we are very clearly intent on bringing Matthias Tell back to Tottenham. I think that has been the word ever since summer has the season ended, that we're quite serious in bringing him back. If we do get an Mbeumo, and we obviously sign and we sign Tell, who's obviously more of a young up and coming potential guy, whereas Mbeumo's ready now. Would it be easier to stomach getting someone like a Tell, who a lot of people are saying, is he ready? We're not convinced by him, all this kind of stuff. But when you're already getting a ready-made player like Mbeumo, is it easier to, if that happens, is it easier to kind of justify signing a bit of a younger player to balance that out?
I think it is now. And the reason I say that is I was one that said, if it was Ange Postecoglou still, that I think we saw it didn't quite work for him in an Ange Postecoglou system. But Thomas Frank can do wonders with development and youth. And I think it's very, very important that we remember Justin. I keep getting his surname wrong. Cochrane, the assistant manager, is heavily involved with nurturing the young talent and has done an incredible job with both domestically and internationally. So that's another eye-opener. As I said, any signing that comes in, I'm going to be totally and utterly fine with. If Thomas Frank says he wants to try Matthias Tell and he's seen something in him, then so be it. But I think it's definitely going to be easier to swallow for people, knowing that someone like an Mbeumo, if he does come through the door, is there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Matthias Tell has a lot of potential. And I think, for me anyway, I think he got a bad rap from the Tottenham fans. I think a lot for his performances since he's come in. I think he has shown stuff. I know a lot of people saying he doesn't show anything. I don't agree. Now, the reality is he has shown just flashes. It's not been consistent, high-quality performances. I concede that. But people forget how young he is, and people forget he's coming to a new league in a very difficult environment, given how many injuries and all these things we had, right? And he's playing a lot of the time in his second team. He's playing out of position sometimes. So for me, I think what he showed, if you actually look at some of the stuff he was showing, a lot of it was actually quite impressive given the circumstances, but people will overlook that because, it wasn't incredible. It wasn't like, wow, blowing everyone away, when it was very hard to do that under those circumstances. I think for me, he showed enough to kind of re-sign him. Obviously not for that money that we originally agreed, which was like 60 million. I think obviously, no way we pay that. But if we get a good deal for him, I think that's a player right in the right environment, and given now he's had that 6 months to acclimatize, we could really be seeing the benefits of that next season. And I wouldn't want to just chug that all away because he wasn't at his very best since we brought him in. I think that's very short-sighted in my opinion. So I'd be very happy and open to bring him in, and I think it'd be a good signing. And if we get Mbeumo, I think all of a sudden you got Son, Tel, Odebed, Johnson, and Mbeumo. Those are some very good options. Some very good options there.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this a few times. I'll mention it again. I didn't get to see Tel a lot live like you would have done. I only got to see him in that really poor Wolves performance at Molineux. And when I was there, the one thing that impressed me the whole game was Matisse Tel's movement off the ball and the amount of times he was available, but Spurs didn't really find him or went forward or backwards. His movement really, really impressed me the one time I've seen him live. But obviously, when he has been available and got into certain positions, he needs to brush up on a few things to develop, but that's because he's young. But the movement I saw from him off the ball really impressed me, because I got to see, obviously, when you're watching it on TV, the cameras don't show the movement of the other players. His movement was exceptional that day. Really, really was. But obviously, he needs to deliver more. And as you said, he's a very, very young talent. Maybe a coach could get better out of him and do more with him, especially in the different systems that we're playing and the different approach. We may see something from Matisse Tel that we didn't. Like I said, the price is going to have to be lowered, isn't it? It was 50 or something to begin with. I think Spurs are talking 35 or around that. So we shall see. We shall see. But like I said, that Wolves game impressed me with his movement, and that was about that.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of quality there. I think people got to just give him another chance, be a bit more patient. And I think Frank's the perfect guy for him. I really do. I think Frank's going to really like him. Come on. Talking a bit more on Thomas Frank. A few reports coming out yesterday in regards to the job he's got on his hands. Gary Jacob has been saying among Thomas Frank's first tasks at Tottenham as Tottenham manager will likely be talking to Son and Romero about their futures. And he also says Tottenham have been looking at a possible centre-back, defensive midfield and winger signings. The Athletic report that Frank was desperate to bring Archie Gray to Brentford. He was seen as a generational talent in defensive midfield by Brentford. So Gray could be a beneficiary of Frank's arrival at Tottenham. It's interesting about that. We'll get into the Romero and Son stuff in a bit, but it says here he wants a centre-back, defensive midfielder and winger. Now, he's saying that, but he was saying he wanted Gray at Brentford because he saw him as a generational talent in defence midfield.
Mm-hmm.
So, with Bentancur already here as well, obviously Bissouma might be leaving, but you got Bentancur there, and supposedly you got a generational talent in defensive midfield. Is he really going to push about out for another 6 if Bentancur's staying?
It's a great question. I think he can see Archie Gray as a real talent, as he's been mentioned, and it clearly shown by wanting him at Brentford. Maybe the development needs to be this year, where he's not the main number 6, and there is someone that comes, whether it be a loan, or this is why someone like the age of a Paulinho or a Paulinho might be a smart move, get him in on loan or a 2-year contract to help Archie Gray learn that position. And then we go from there. I think Archie Gray is a good player, a very good player. Delighted when we signed him, as we did a video together. But is it too soon? He didn't look very comfortable in midfield in a Ange Postecoglou system, did he? But we all know that was without playing a 6, where Thomas Frank does see Archie Gray. So Archie Gray must be rubbing his hands together right now. Maybe really disappointed that Andrew's gone, like all the players have said. But knowing a manager that's come in that desperately wanted you at his club beforehand can only be a shot in the arm for positivity, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Gray, knowing that Frank really wanted him, will be quite encouraged by that and quite happy about that. But it's going to be interesting to see what we do in that position. Does Frank if Frank really wanted a Brentford, as I'm saying, because he's a generational talent, is he going to put his full trust in him and think, I believe in your talent and I'm not going to spend my way out of this problem that we have with you not looking right in last season in that position? I believe that you're more than capable because I wanted you and I think you're a generational talent. And if he does want to sign someone on top of that, does that mean maybe Bentancur and Basuma are leaving? Does Bentancur change his position? Maybe it's more of an 8. We already have Bergvall, we have Sarr in that position, so already there's competition. So I don't know how we combat that issue. If he really believes in giving Gray that opportunity, which I think he might well do.
You know what? So when you look at it, us as Spurs fans will all sit here and say we need a monster number 6 or a number 6, whatever word you want to use around it. To us, that seemed like the essential, and it needs to be a big, well-known player. Maybe he sees something in the way he's going to play, and maybe as much as the number 6 is important to us, maybe he does feel that there is one there ready, and it's not as big a necessity in Thomas Frank's eyes than it is in our eyes. But I think we need someone to help Archie and show him the ropes. I really do, for his development. But if Thomas Frank sees him and says, right, you're going straight in there, happy days.
That's going to be very interesting. In terms of, winger, centre-back, obviously Mbeumo would be the winger, wouldn't it? Potentially with maybe Tell as well. That would be that covered. And then a centre-back obviously depends on Romero. Now, that obviously depends on the future of Romero and Son, which we've been chatting about. Obviously, Romero, the fallout of his statement yesterday has been there for the last 24 hours. Do we think... I've just read a report that Levy from Master saying Levy does want... there's more reports about Mbeumo.
Okay.
Reading. There's a journalist called Sam Tabutu, who's a Brentford journalist, who's a kind of freelance. He was very much reporting about the Frank to Tottenham news and around the coaches and all that kind of stuff. And he has just posted saying there is truth to Tottenham moving for Bryan Mbeumo. So more heat about Bryan Mbeumo to Tottenham, and maybe we could be getting our man. In terms of Romero, I'm just reading reports saying we do want to kind of get him to sign a deal, but Atletico only want to pay 40 million. I mean, if there is a kind of standoff there, is there any chance he signs a deal, do you think? And is there any chance we sell for anything close to 40?
Signing a deal, I just can't see it now. After, as you said yesterday, people calling it the two-footed tackle, the statement, I don't see a way back for it. I don't. Hopefully, Thomas Frank can have words, and if he wants to keep him, can literally turn him and make Daniel try to give him a new contract. I can't see it personally, but I also, on the other hand, cannot see Daniel Levy letting him go for £40 million. Mm-hmm. Not a chance. This one will develop, but whether people agree with what Romero said and when he said it, he aimed it at the right person. But the thing is, you can say, was the timing a little bit silly, which I would agree with. The comments, I strongly agree with. It's the timing, but how do you come back from that?
Yeah, that's the interesting part, isn't it? Especially if the owner ain't going anywhere, is he? So I can't think...
Conte did that. Look what happened. Harry Redknapp did that. Look what happened. So I just can't see anything else changing in that. I just can't see how he comes back from it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if off the back of that, Levy's giving him a new contract, to be honest. I mean, I'd be shocked. Obviously, Levy will want to protect his asset and the value, but Levy is known to be sometimes a bit butthurt by these things, and I wouldn't be surprised if off the back of that statement he's like, you know what, this guy can just go. I don't really like. Obviously, he's going to want good money for him. Don't get me wrong, and he might make it a painful process, but I think he'll probably want him out the door, knowing Levy. So I'd be surprised if I would be shocked. Sorry, if Levy is willing to give him a new improved deal and kind of wanting him to stick around if he's saying that stuff publicly, because who knows when he can kind of say that again. It's like a ticking time bomb for Levy when you think about it that way. But look, I've also heard that the whole thing about Romero leaving if Ange leaves was overblown. That's what I've heard as well, and it was maybe made too much out of, and there is a chance he stays. So I've heard that, but I don't know how much truth there is.
If we sign Mbeumo and Kuti signs a new contract, Daniel Levy's days are numbered, and there is definitely 100% something happening higher up than we are all being led to believe. I mean, the things keep rolling and building about these rumours about investment or a takeover. If Mbeumo signs and Romero signs a new contract, there is 100% something going on.
Okay, talking about some other quotes. We're talking about Antonio Conte. He was talking to Sky Italy yesterday about his time at Tottenham, and he said that it was a difficult year at Tottenham. I arrived in November with them in ninth, the standings in the ninth in the standings, and we ended up in the Champions League, overtaking Arsenal. And the rivalry between the two clubs. For them, going to the Champions League was like winning the Premier League. On the last day, the Champions League entry was celebrated in the dressing room, and I called my staff and told them, we don't get used to these celebrations. You don't celebrate these things. We are okay. We are used to celebrating other things. Okay, great feat, but at the same time, we understand what kind of celebration it is. So kind of calling out Tottenham for having the mentality of top four in Champions League is like a trophy. And obviously, given what's happened last season where we did actually win a trophy and we celebrated like it was, but the manager obviously lost his job over it. It's quite poignant, I feel, those kind of quotes from Conte.
Yeah, I mean, Conte's always been one for that, isn't he? Where fourth is not good enough. It's got to be like he's just done in Italy, winning a title. He's made a career of doing it everywhere he goes, except for us. And like Jose, he won't mix his words, will he? He won't mix his words. He's come out and said this again, but he's got a point. But the one thing is, this time, like you said, we did win a trophy, and we did celebrate. And because of winning that trophy, we have gone to Champions League. So I would rather do it a cup, a Europa League and Champions League entry this way. Take the league out of it rather than finish fourth and have nothing. So it's great to be able to celebrate this trophy. I plan to do it all summer. But like Jose, he's always going to be fast to have a comment like this, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's classic Conte. And I think, look, obviously we want to celebrate trophies at this football club. We don't want to celebrate fourth place. But clearly that's kind of the aim, isn't it, right now at Tottenham, is this fourth place finish and trying to get, but look, we also understanding that 17th, that's not acceptable.
Correct.
But also, if Andrew would have finished fourth last season with no trophy, he would have kept a job, wouldn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt whatsoever. That's how this club operates.
Mm-hmm. So, which is, telling. And finally, in terms of the update, Carl Walker was talking on his podcast yesterday, and he claims that he would have given up one of his Premier League trophies to have won the Europa League with Tottenham. He said in his podcast yesterday, and he said, watching that game, he's never been more nervous watching. And he said he wasn't even playing in it. He said he hasn't felt as nervous as that in a long time watching a game of football. And he says he would give up one of his Premier League trophies to have won that Europa League, and that probably also goes to show what a big deal it's seen, not just by Tottenham fans, but also outside of Tottenham. But obviously, he was at Tottenham for many years, and he was there and never won anything. And he was obviously a big fan favourite at the time, and unfortunately, he did end up leaving. But what do you make of those quotes from Kyle Walker? You'd give up a Premier League trophy to have won that, and do you think Harry Kane feels the same?
Well, give up his Bundesliga. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he came out now and said that? I'll give up my Bundesliga. That wouldn't go down particularly well in parts of Germany. It's lovely to hear Kyle Walker say that, and obviously you hear the players saying watching the game is so much more nerve-wracking than obviously being on the pitch and being able to have a part in it. Nice for him to give up one of his Premier Leagues. He should give up a couple of more. And but it's always nice to hear that. He's always got Tottenham in his heart. You've got to remember, he left Tottenham because he wanted to move further north and be closer to his family in Sheffield. It wasn't one of these, I want to go win trophies. Obviously, he's gone and won everything, but it was because he wanted to be closer to home. Fair play to him for saying it. And he's got a very, very close bond with us, hasn't he?
He does. And I thought it was very, very interesting, kind of what he was saying, Kyle Walker. And yeah, I wish he could have won a trophy at us. It never really happened. But yeah, like it's interesting. I can't think ever that Kane would say something like that publicly. Now, I guess it's a bit different. He's only won one. I guess Walker has, 4 Premier League trophies? 5? I think 4.
Yeah.
So maybe when you've got 4, it's easier to say
FA
that.
Cup, Champions League, everything.
It's probably easier to say it.
Also, you'd say that Kyle Walker is nearing the end of his career, and those kind of things could be said. Harry Kane will probably still be playing for a good few years more, so maybe there's something in that. But yeah,
he was also saying like how much, like the reason why he's also saying it is because he knows how much it means to the club and what a big deal it is to win that trophy. So he would really have loved to have been a part of that.
Oh, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm sure Kane would have, but he's not going to say it at the moment with his one trophy. But it is lovely to hear players that have played for this club, and Kyle Walker's part of a team that really should have gone on to win silverware and end the trophy drought earlier, but they didn't. But it's always lovely to see.
All right, that is all for today's Tottenham update. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of all of today's stories. I know Brian is on limited time, but we got I think Brains is going to be joining us in a bit, so feel free to hop off whenever you want. We've got some super chats here.
Well, let's go for the super chats, then I'll hop off.
Dark Sunji says, Sim, I think he wanted Gray to learn from Norgard. Is Bentancur not a better teacher than Norgard, maybe?
Joe, but I think with the Norgard, it's again like with Mbeumo, the Thomas Frank coming in and know what he wants from his player. I do think Gray needs maybe a season with someone alongside him. But again, what do I know? And Thomas Frank obviously clearly wanted him in that position at Brentford. So maybe we're looking too much into this and wanting or thinking we absolutely need a number 6 when in Thomas Frank's system, he's already sitting there.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Frank will, I reckon he will take a look at the 6th position in terms of what we have before making a decision about who he wants to sign. That's my prediction. Yeah. Obviously, we're hearing reports about we want to sign a 6, but I think with Bissouma, Bentancur and Gray there, I know fans won't want to hear it, but they are all pretty good players. And as much as I believe, having seen them for the last few years, that yes, we could do with an upgrade there. I agree with that. And there are better players out there. I think Frank's going to want to make that assessment himself, having watching them in training and all that kind of stuff before making that decision. I don't think we sign a 6 before he's had that pre-season with them, in my opinion. That's my prediction. Dark G again says, I think that a centre-back rotation for VD, Van der Ven, Ndika or Bramthwaite. So he's basically saying he thinks that we're looking for a centre-back not to replace Romero, but as rotation for Van der Ven. Which we kind of need both, I guess, if it goes to that.
Yeah, I mean, again, after you mentioned it and discussed it, was talking it, Branthwaite and Collins, if Collins is one to come over with him, Collins actually has better stats than him and played every single minute And obviously, I think his price tag will be cheaper. But it doesn't. I'm not saying that just because I don't. His stats were better. I'm a huge fan of Branthwaite. Huge fan. I think he's a fantastic defender. We'll see what happens. And Dika is one that's gone quiet as well, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't really loud, I would say. I would argue, but it has gone quiet. Michael Hellman says this does not feel like business as usual at Tottenham. Maybe I'm speaking too soon. Big up, lads. Great coverage. Yeah. I mean, this is what you were saying, Brian, about is there something going on in the background? If we are serious about Mbeumo, if Romero's staying, all these kind of things, is there something going on in the background?
Yeah, I mean, as people will know, when I'm here, people will know me for being negative and always bashing about Levy, and I do. And if people think that's negative, I don't really care. But I've always been one to hold Levy accountable, and I'll never change from it, and I still won't be. But if things like this are happening, especially with the changing of people at the board, you've got to think something is. You've got to think something's happening. If these signings come off and everything going on, you've just got to think there's a lot of meat on the bones to this rumour about takeover or investment. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But you've got to think something is going on upstairs right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Okay, Brains is going to be joining in 2 minutes.
There you go. So I'll wait for Brains. We'll do a substitution.
We'll do a substitution.
We'll do a substitution, brother. We'll do a substitution. But listen, the greatest thing that is now, we do have our manager in. There's no doubt about it. He is here. And now it's about seeing where he takes us. I have, from the start, had great confidence that he will do things. There's been a great article that I shared with you as well, where he showed all the amount. He played 9 different formations during his time at Brentford, and was showing the different things that he'll bring. Aerial duels, he said Spurs will be a lot more aerial. So Brentford won the most, or competed for the most aerial duels in the Premier League. Last season, over 500 more aerial duels competed than we did. So there's going to be some physicality and some more aerial dominance shown from this team. So there's going to be big changes. And Thomas Frank will have a full pre-season to get this going. And we see where this takes us. But it's exciting times, manager-wise.
Very, very. Well, I think it is exciting.
You converted. You're fully Frankish.
I'm a fan of Frank. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I'm a fan of him. The Ange thing is. I'm trying to lay it to rest. I'm trying my best to put it in the past. I don't want to feel it anymore. The boomerang has been laid to rest.
I went back and saw that, Sim. I watched it after the show. I went back and saw it, and saw you about to throw it, and then you just put. I saw it, brother.
We've laid it to rest, but I still need to hear Frank talk, you know? I need to hear him speak. I need to hear those words. Let's bring in Brains McLeod, who's in the house.
There you go, substitution. Substitution.
Let me, maybe that's...
Are you off, Brian?
I'm off out, and I'll be back with Sim later on today.
Wait, Brian, can you give me 1 minute? I just need to make a very, very quick phone call. Is that right? Literally 1 minute.
Whatever you guys need, as you always know, I can be with Brains.
Brains for a minute, and I'll literally be back.
Sim's off to call the Australian embassy.
Brains, how are you feeling? Brains, how are you feeling with the news? Obviously, because I've spoken a lot about it, especially on this channel. How are you feeling with Thomas Frank and Mbeumo links?
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as Sim in terms of it's just very hard to let the Ange thing go just because he won a trophy. If he didn't prove himself right and make us all feel so stupid about ourselves for doubting him, you know, it's kind of like we got off with what I feel personally like, you know, you really doubted a guy. you really were harsh at certain times towards the end of that season, or from like halfway. Maybe, you know, for him to like prove us wrong just feels like it doesn't feel right to be celebrating his dismissal, you know. And it's a bit, the timing's really bad, because if you offered me Thomas Frank a few seasons ago, you know, like that time when we were, you know, we didn't know who we were going to get. It was like, it felt like a year trying to find a manager. If you offered me Frank at that time, I'd have been like, wow, this is amazing for us. You know, since Poch, I kind of always thought he would be a good guy to come into the club. But it's a weird timing for him. It feels like it's not doing a service to him, bringing him in like this in a way. But I also don't think he'll really care, because I think he sees it as such a big opportunity that, you know, he's not going to be, you know, crying over spilt milk.
There you go. Well, Sim, you back now?
I'm back.
Right, I will leave you guys to it. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone in the chat. Enjoy that Thomas Frank is here. And yeah, just have a wonderful weekend, people. And Sim, I'll be with you later. Brian, speak to you soon, brother.
Brian.
Take care, Brian. See you soon.
All right,
so
Gav.
Give me the lowdown, because you know, I'm kind of seeing these links. Are they credible? Are they?
They are credible. It's exclusive from Sky Sports that are saying that Brian and Tottenham have held initial discussions with Brentford about a deal for Brian Mbeumo. Mbeumo is understood to be more intrigued by a move to Tottenham now that Frank has become their head coach. Spurs have received encouragement about a potential deal now the Dane has switched to North London. And there's been a reliable Brentford journalist who has been kind of covering the Frank move to Tottenham. And so I've become quite accustomed to him. He's kind of like a freelance Brentford journalist. He's reporting that Tottenham are moving now for Brian Mbeumo, and they are serious about it. So there is definitely a lot of talk about Brian Mbeumo and Tottenham at the moment. And I think there's another journalist, Graham Bailey, who said that Man United are still favourites for him, but he is very settled in London, and obviously has a great relationship with Thomas Frank. So, I mean, look, I do think we have some things going for us in this deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's based here as his coach that he trusts and that he's built such a relationship with. I get that Man United is his boyhood club, but that's not the Man United that exists anymore, and they are in such turmoil. They threw money at big signings, you know, a few seasons ago, and it proved to have no impact at all. Like, it didn't change anything. So I think a safer bet, considering that we just won a Europa League, that we're in the Champions League, that we are actually more likely to pay 150 above if the right things happen. I mean, I'm guessing that money talks. The only reason he's not, you know, said yes to the deal, and the fact that it's gone a little bit quiet with Man United, is money. I can't believe they actually offered as low as they did. I thought they were going to make a statement and just go all out and pay him 200,000 a week and would be done with it. But the fact that they only offered 150, and we might, you know, if you can be on parity with that, offer him consistent game time in the Champions League, the chance of like being in something he understands, a system that will probably be built around the way he actually likes to play, surely you'd be thinking that's a safer bet, you know.
And also, he immediately gets onto the platform which he wants to be, which is in that Champions League, right? And as much as he's a Man United fan, obviously part of his ambition is to be playing at that level, and there's no guarantee that even the season after next that Man United will be there, albeit they are spending money, and credit like Cunha's a great signing, and they're trying to be serious in the market. There's still no guarantee if he goes there, you know, given how bad their form was. They clearly also need a lot of improving, right? There's no guarantee that Man United the season after next are going to be in Champions League. So he could be having to wait another 3 years to be at that platform potentially. If he signs to Man United, there's a chance of that. Whereas at Tottenham, next season guaranteed Champions League football under a manager he knows and trusts, and knows how to get the best out of him.
You'd be kind of nuts in a way to turn that down, especially if the money is right. Obviously, you're not nuts if Spurs come in and offer the word's escaping my head.
Rivalry
Offer. If Spurs come in and do that, then we're the idiots here. And that's a massive possibility. But I don't think we would be going in as heavy as this with his manager and a part of like the discussions if it was a derisory offer. Like, why would you do that to him? Surely Thomas wouldn't be up for, like, don't go with 70k. Like, what are you doing? He's got a big offer here. It's his boyhood club. Like, why would you ask me to convince him to come if it's not a serious offer? And if it is, then I think you'd be a little bit nuts not to take that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for him, there's a lot for us that we have on our side in this deal in terms of convincing him. I think there's a lot there to say, look, this is really the good place for you. And also, when he looks at the team, I know it's maybe similar as well for Man United, but he looks at our team and there's definitely a place there in that right hand side, right there, ready for him to be playing every week. He'll fancy his chances playing there as well. So, like, how much of a statement would it be if we did hijack Man United?
It would be so huge. I mean, we hijacked a couple of deals last year, and I felt that was huge. How much did that add to an aura of Ange that he was able to take a player from Bayern, take a player from hijack a move for a Barcelona target, things like that was huge for us. That resulted in a big buy-in from fans. This time round, I think where it's on right now, I don't know about you, but like I can kind of sense just from chats to other like Spurs fans that I talk to, like that it's a bit like, yeah, he's a good manager. Like no one is saying that we don't want Thomas Frank. No one, not at all. I think everyone is slightly excited about it, but we all just doubt the intentions of Levy and what the reason is behind Frank. Is it just to kind of steady the ship? And if it is, then who's gonna get excited about a steady the boat, strategy? Get us back in the top 10. I think that's the way a lot of people see it, as a sideways step. But that all changes if you get a big signature signing like Mbeumo, especially if it's early and then you've got a bit of work. I feel like you could get Mbeumo and then pack the squad with what it needs rather than looking for big names. You got Mbeumo, then I think you just go and you pack and you contain. The bigger decisions come on who is making way. I think that's like becomes a big. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. I don't know, because as soon as
it's a big conversation. It's a big conversation. Yeah. Because we were looking through the squad, we know that we basically have a squad of because we have such a lack of homegrown, we are limited to 22 players, I think it is, or 22 players in the homegrown, and we have a squad of currently 24. So that means 2 have to leave just to have maintained the squad numbers. That means after 2, 1 sell after that gets one in, and you're looking at the squad. Obviously, you've got the likes of maybe Romero might be leaving. You've got, obviously, we're talking about Bissouma. Obviously, Richarlison was one we earmarked. Is Son? We're going to have to be ruthless with Son. But if those 4 leave, that's only 2 signings we can make. And that might not even be enough. But even then, I was looking at a report, and apparently, I was looking at a report from Graham Bailey yesterday, and he claims that Frank is a massive fan of Richarlison, and he says that he wouldn't be surprised if Richarlison overtakes Solanke in the pecking order with Frank appointment. So if that happens, it's like, well, we're not getting rid of Rishi, so who the hell are we getting rid of?
Yeah, I think the only problem with that is I can see the logic in the style and the way he wants to play. I can see him really getting, people are talking about players he can get a tune out of. I can see him getting a tune out of Richie. I really think I can see him do that. The problem is Richie's body and fitness, and how we've not been able to keep him fit, and it's recurring calf and it's injuries that don't look like they're going to really go away. They're going to plague him a bit. So if you've got a risk like that, is it sensible to take that risk to keep Richie, especially if you can get decent offers for him? But I think it's that ends up maybe becoming a bit of a defining point of our window. Is how brave are we willing to be? Who are you willing to let go? And I think if you're looking at like betting lines in terms of like positivity, the line of positivity moving, I think if you bring Mbeumo in and you manage to keep someone like Son, I think a lot of people are going to get really excited about how we could attack next season, this coming season. But I think if you go and you know how they use those 4 names you mentioned, if it's a case of getting rid of them, because obviously financially that is that's sound. You're going to get some good money there, and you're probably going to be able to, use that money wisely. But because of the amount you can even bring in, do you really need to get such a big amount to use what, you know what I mean? It's like we're not in that boat. So do you kind of just hold on to some of your stronger players and use kind of some of the lesser players, or the players, like your kind of Basumas and Richies? Do you kind of look to make them move on and then kind of see what you can get? I feel like that's what's going to be the defining. Can you imagine we get Mbeumo in, we lose Romero, Son, Richie, Basuma. We lose 4 first teamers and we bring 1. That starts to kind of shift you back again to like, then you got to bring in other big names. You can't replace a Romero and not bring a very top goalkeeper, a very top defender in. You can't, right? Like, and Nathan Collins might be actually brilliant, and that might be a decent buy, because you got Danzo, you got Dragusin, you got Luka coming in. You might be all right with that. But if you get rid of Sonny and Richarlison and Basuma, and you don't bring another marquee player in time on top of Mbeumo, I think then you're going to like lose the positive vibe of it.
Right. Yeah. If you get rid of all these high earners and you don't really again, if we're talking about losing Romero and Son, that's the only 2 players I think that are left in the squad who earn over 100 grand a week. So you need to be buttering that up. You need to be signing big earners. There has been another update, Brains. Bit of breaking news. Ben Jacobs says, although Tottenham have stepped up their interest in Bryan Mbeumo, conversations are not yet advanced. Brentford want in excess of 60 million, and Mbeumo's preferred option is still Man United. Spurs made aware of this, but before Thomas Frank joined, a lot will depend on whether United meet the valuation. Spurs are prepared to better Man United's rejected 45 plus 10 million offer if given encouragement. They also have Antoine Semenyo and Tyler Dibbling on their list. So they're saying that Tottenham are prepared to make a better offer than Man United for Bryan Mbeumo.
I mean, Ben Jacobs is pretty sound, right? He does kind of get a lot of things right. But like, if you're looking at that wording of like, but they also have Antoine Semenyo and Tyler Dibbling, that very much sounds like we're just looking for one player in that area.
Oh, sorry.
And very much looking for one player in the attacking area. You know, I mean, that could just mean that's their picks for right wing, but it seems to me like we'd only really be going for one target up there.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of talk about Tell. And I think Tell is still very much on Tottenham's radar, I reckon. So I think when I read that, I think that's maybe for right wing. I think I agree with you. I don't think we'll sign Semenyo and Mbeumo and Dibbling as well. So I think when that's what he says, but he also says Brentford and want in excess of 60 million. Mbeumo's preferred option is still Man United. Spurs made aware of this, but only before Frank joined. So he's saying that Spurs and that, but it's a bit. I always find that a bit weird because almost like did Mbeumo like only notice that Frank was just joining now? Like did he not know before? But but do you think the fact that Frank's now confirmed? Because obviously in Mbeumo, there was that news 10 days ago. He's chosen Man United over Newcastle and Arsenal. He wants to join Man United. But like within that story, was he not even considering that Frank was coming to Tottenham before he thought that? Or now is it just when footballers' minds, they only really start to consider things once they're signed and then you can start looking at it?
Well, things did kind of move fast. I know we were kind of like annoyed because there was seemed like there was no word happening, but things did kind of move fast. And Man United I remember how early it was when they were saying they were going to go hard for him, but then we were still waiting 2 weeks to find out what was going to happen. Andrew's still in a job. I don't think maybe. I mean, Frank might have known in discussions, but even if you're Thomas Frank and you really do actually want the Spurs job, you're probably not going around to your players going, "Oh, I'm in there." You're not going to tempt fate, and then you could get Daniel levied, and you might not want the job. You know what I mean? So I do think it probably does change things a little bit if I think it was bad that it got out that Mbeumo's a childhood Man United fan. That if all that does is weaken your position as a player, you don't want your agent to be going into negotiations with stuff like that on. You know, 'cause at the end of the day, every football player that's out there is not playing for the club they supported. Like no one is really playing for the club they supported. Like very, very few. I would be like the smallest of percentage of players. They're professional players. Like they, if anything, when you become a professional footballer, you stop being really a supporter of your childhood club. You look at them, you try to say the amount of times he's played Man United, he's given a crap about scoring goals against Man United. Yeah, it means nothing really. And if that's, you know, flavored Man United's offer for him, that's very stupid because money does talk with these players. And Bryan Mbeumo has proved that he's worth in excess of 60 million, in my opinion. And he's proved that he's worth a player of profound wages. Like I think that, you know. And so, but then I worry when I see Anton Semenyo and Tyler Dibling. I just look at that and go, I mean, even though I love Tyler Dibling, I just look at that and go, Levy was just look at the money and the wages. How much wages would Tyler Dibling be on? Even if you paid him 50 million, what is he? You know what I mean? He'd be on like 65. You know, he'd be on 65 a week, you know, which is still great for a player his age. But yeah, it's interesting. This is going to come down to how good the relationship between Thomas Frank and Bryan Mbeumo is. And if Frank goes, let me get the club to give you what you need and come. And then then that's all about, that's the first big job that Thomas Frank's going to have. The first moment where he's going to realize how difficult the situation at Spurs is. And I hope just on the kind of, this is his first week, right? This is his first chance, you know, give him what he needs here. If he's saying that we should go for Bryan Mbeumo because he knows how to get 20 plus goals out of him, he's proven it. Give him that player. Give the player what he needs. And I don't think he's looking for crazy things. I don't think he's looking, even if he's looking for 180, like I think he's worth 200.
If you're Mbeumo's agent, where do you think he's in? Let's say the money's the same, they're offering the same money, Tottenham and Man United. Where do you think he advises?
I think all of this is coming from his agent. I mean, this is perfect for him because they're going to play these teams off each other. And this might drag for a little bit. It's so good for Bryan Mbeumo when everyone is buzzing about. Right now, he's like him and Cunha that was done so quick. But this kind of going on a little bit and these two windows and all the talk about it is so good for his brand because it just, you know, everyone's talking about him. And I think like if you're thinking about a brand, because obviously Man United is the biggest club in the world, right? But if he goes there to a team struggling, a stadium that's fallen apart, an absolute disarray between fans and club, you know, like in such debt, not sure how they're going to fare in the next year, manager who's come in and struggling. If you're going to go to that uncertainty, I think that then your brand's getting mentioned in the wrong way at the wrong club. Comes to Spurs on the up. If he starts scoring a few goals, he's going to be worth so, you know what I mean? His brand goes through the roof. It's all upside, I think, if you choose the Spurs angle. There's romance. There's a storyline coming off of it. Now a team that's never won. Now they won. Can this big player come in? And is this a moment where Levy's finally going, let's go? There's a lot of storyline that I think if you're in Mbeumo's agent, you're going, yeah, like, let's just hope. But then it means nothing if Spurs don't put a good offer in. You know,
I love how this guy says, "Brain, let's be real. Man United will probably bounce back," but it's like, guys, it's been like close to 15 years.
Yeah.
What do you mean bounce back? This is now a period of a dry spell. Like this is now it. Like there's talk of like coming back. That's like saying like when Liverpool won their title, that was like a comeback from the 70s, 80s. Like that took them a long time. Like Man United are in that period now. Like there's no guarantees about anything. Just because they were big in the 90s, I know they're going to make signings, and don't get me wrong, they're always going to be a name. But I think they've proven that there's no guarantee they're coming back. You know what I mean? The last one in the league in 2012, they've been terrible pretty much since then. I know they've won a few trophies, but all this like they're definitely going to come back. It's been 13 years. It's 13 years is a long time now since they've been there, that team.
And I still just see that there's mostly panic at the club. Like it is mostly like there's all these ideas of what's wrong, but no one can really put a finger on what actually the issue is. It seems to be like core structural issues from top to bottom, you know, like a real denigration of a club and a kind of a brand. But I think I don't think the manager, I don't think he's happy. I don't think it's a safe bet at all. You're going there now because it's a big brand, it's a big club, but it's not the right time. It really isn't. It's a club in disarray. They need an entire structural change. You know, I don't know one Man United fan who is in any way happy with what's going on at the club. Winning that Europa League, if they won that, it wouldn't change a thing for them. They'd all still be going, our club's a complete mess. You know, even them beating City recently in the FA Cup, like my Man United friends were still like, meh, it means nothing. We're still dreadful. This is not papering over any cracks to them anymore, you know? So, yeah, I just, and the difference with Spurs, although our fan base is normally quite divided on very specific things, we do all get behind the club at the right time. And I think we would all get behind an Mbeumo signing. And I think we are all going to get behind Frank. So I can see once this kind of is out the system of like, you know, missing Ange, it just takes, you're right, it just takes Thomas to like address the fans. And it just takes one, if he wins that Super Cup.
Yeah, oh my God, he's flying. Yeah,
it will be so huge. If he
wins that Super Cup, I think we're all going to be saying we're winning the Champions League. We're all going to be saying it.
Yeah, I think the buy-in, even at like just a couple of good positive results at the start of the season, it's going to be huge. You know, I think there is.
Go on.
Yeah, I just say that I think there is a belief, even though like the kind of biggest of Ange fans, I think there is a belief that, in a way, like getting Thomas Frank in is a very sound decision.
No, I agree. I've got no problem with Frank. I think he's actually, when you logically think about it, he's the perfect guy for Levy. Like perfect guy for his club. My whole point is just I'm frustrated that 2 years, even though within those 2 years that we had under Ange, we finished fifth and won a European trophy. Yet again, in that 18 to 2 year period, we're back here where we are right now, starting another cycle. And next season potentially could be, again, yet another transition, which is just very frustrating. How many transition seasons are we going to have? Like, it's just, we always end up back there. And that's what's frustrating. Now, don't get me wrong. Frank might well hit the ground running next season. Maybe we'll go straight to the top 4 or 5th and go far in the Cups, and he'll have a great year. There's a chance that might happen because he's a great manager and I really, really like him. But my whole point is, if we finished 8th and crashed out of all the Cups early, he's not going to get sacked. He's not going to be judged on that, is he? He's going to still get that time. So that's like still frustrating. It's not frustrating that we're going to give him that time because that's what's needed, right? We need to give him that time. It's just frustrating that we're at a point, because like we're at a point again where he's not really going to be judged that much next season. I feel like Frank in that sense, and I'm just annoyed that we're at that state again where we're giving another manager a bit more and more time to get to another place. Whereas if we kept Ange, at least we have some kind of expectations and things for next season where like, okay, now is time you've got to deliver. And obviously you delivered last season with a trophy, but it's like now we can really push on. Now it's your 3rd season. Now what can you do with now everyone's been together for this amount of time and you can really push on next season? And there's not this like expectation that like doesn't really matter what you do. It's kind of like you have to do things. But now it's like with Frank, it's like if he finishes 8th, none of us can really complain too much, and that's just a bit annoying in a way.
And also, it's like Thomas Frank is coming into a very different environment. It's tough. He's got to win over players who finally like went through a journey with a manager, and which is a really deep emotional thing for footballers, right? They got there and they won. That's so huge. That's you build over that process, all the losses, all the hard times to win. That builds such unity and such a vibe amongst players. Now they're willing to die for each other, you know? Like we had to sit through the pain of us getting there. And when you get there, it's like a shot of adrenaline in the arms of everyone. Like that's when you go, and to take Ange away after that, it's like now we start the process again. Were we not hurt enough by that process? It's not like Frank could be the best manager on the planet. Ancelotti could come in here, Zidane could come in here. It will still be difficult because you have to learn all the players' personalities. You've got to get your systems across. And if Ange has a playbook that was very easy for them to learn, and that showed in the first 10 games, because it is one kind of principle and one action and style, right? I'm not saying it's as simple as that, but as a playbook, it's not too many pages. Thomas Frank's coming in here with like a Bible of a playbook. He's got 4-4-2. He's got 4-3-3. He's got alternative
3-5-2.
He's got different ways that he plays them, all under a very specific principled system, and that's going to take time. There's no way that you can expect all the players, all the different personalities, their mind states. How long it takes a player to learn is also something very unique. You know what I mean? Like, you could have a learnability of Eric Dyer, or you could have a learnability of Udogie. Like, it takes people different times to learn, and that's what a manager has to deal with. That can take 2 years. That's, you know what I mean? It can really take a while. And so he's got all these new things. The good thing is that he's coming with very specific coaching staff. So you're not Ange coming in, learning all these things, learning players' personalities off of coaches, and then also having new coaches in that are out there learning the players' personalities. That is just such a long-winded way to do it. He's coming in with coaches who design. One of them knows some of the players, but who they have their systems designed and their training methods really ironed out. And I've heard that it's amazing training. It's really engaging as a footballer, his training sessions. So I think that's what he's going to combat it. I think so. We might see like some good results quite early and a good bounce, but it's when you get the tough times. It's when you get a lot of injuries. I think injuries are here to stay for everyone in the Prem. I do think that towards the end of that season, the same conversations we were having was, can't be 17 players out now. It can't be. Come on. I was hearing friends of every other football team talking about it. Arsenal were saying it was like, how could we survive if we lose our best players? Like everyone was saying it. So I think injuries are here to stay. So with a squad like us, unless we do pack this squad to give him something which mirrors his Brentford consistency in terms of like swapping in like for like players, which he obviously doesn't have yet here. Until we give him that, it's as soon as you get your best players injured, we're not going to really know how he can handle diversity at this club, So I think there's a lot of unknowns, like you were saying, like the reason why it's just unknowns, right? It's not negative. It's just we do not know how this is going to go. Multiple competitions, 2 times a week in the Champions League. What do you prioritize?
More expectation. He can't go like 5 games without a win and it not be a crisis, essentially.
Yeah. And so how are our fans going to react then now? How is the positivity going to stay, or is it going to be like, I don't know, and then it starts to leak through the online space, and then there's and that starts to kind of, I think we don't actually really understand how some of that does actually flavor boardroom decisions and how they look, because it's a brand and they need buy-in from fans, so they in some weird way have to react, so I think it's not going to be all roses, but my worry is with it coming in after Ange, that it gets a little bit sticky, and say we go on a 5-game losing streak, or say we're not in the top 10, then there's a backlash, and I don't think that's fair on Frank. I think he's got to be up the time, and that's why we're annoyed, because if
we have to give him time. It's kind of annoying we have to give him time, but we do. But it's an annoying thing. We just had that time, you know what I mean? And it almost means like all those losses we went through last season, all that pain, and we came out, as you said, with that victory at the end. That kind of doesn't mean anything. The fact that we went through that process, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that most important thing was is we got Champions League. That's what it was for, basically, because winning that trophy and being winners and coming through all that pain and sticking together and winning, it kind of, but the fact that they sacked him after, it kind of meant like doesn't mean that the whole thing we all went through doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah,
doesn't mean much because you've kind of got rid of that figurehead that they're all willing to run. They've now built that relationship where they're all wanting to fight for each other and run through a brick wall for this manager. And because you got rid of him, all those losses mean nothing in a way.
Ange had to build the belief in these players, especially a lot of them are young. They have nothing to build upon, really. He had to build. If you actually look what he really went through, I've said this a couple of times recently to friends, if you actually look at what he really went through, it is 100%. It's a miracle that he won anything at this club. It's a miracle. He had massive injuries, but the fact that he had to use kids in big games, and sometimes it worked, like the Europa game where Mikey scores, and it's like, and we go through like three. It's he did some amazing things at this club, and what he did, the big thing that made us all feel good, and the relief and the monkey off the back is he built the idea that we could win, and that's bigger than tactics and strategy. That is huge because players on the pitch, sometimes you would see a game where we'd be up 2-0 and the players come out for the second half and they're off it. You can it's like, what is this? He wasn't telling players to go sit a little bit further. No, they just didn't have it in them to win. And on the big, so he's a born winner. His mind state is ironclad. It took him 2 seasons to build that. And then now they're sitting there going, you know what? We're winners. We are winners. And then they're hearing, what's that? They've sacked the winner who's put the winning mentality in us. They've taken him away. If you're one of the players there, that's going to take a bit of time. You'll be thinking like, look, I'm just here for a wage now. I mean, they're not interested in winning at this club at all.
But what I would say is I think Frank is the kind of guy, type of manager who could maybe get them back on side very quickly. He is that type of character. And you've got to give him credit there. He's a great manager.
Yeah. And that's sometimes a lot of the stuff that Levy does. I think you have to wait quite a few many years. But he always makes these decisions that are like, we think that he's a risk averse guy, but actually, like, they could really go wrong or they could really go right. And this is one of those decisions where Thomas Frank is such a winning personality. And I love the way when I listen to him talk about football is that it is 100% like it's my way or the door, but he does it in such a nice way. It's like, this is the principles that I put in the player. And then we talk and talk and talk. And so that their mind is so understanding what the plan is. So you can't, and how many times you saw Ben Davies going on Eurosport and saying, no one has any one real role or there's no real principle put in anyone. It's just get the ball forward, but it's like, it's too like, okay. Like, it's just like saying, just be phenomenal. It's like, whereas Frank has a very specific download of information that he gives you in a lovely way, empowering you, and then he says, "Now do it." And if you don't do it, it's fine. You just sit on the bench. He is brutal. We've seen him drop big players. He is brutal. It's just that he does it in such a way that the player goes, "Yeah, fair enough. That's on me." You know what I mean? Whereas I don't think you maybe get that information from Ange. Do you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. Been another update, Brains, as we've been live. Sammy Mockbell of the BBC says Spurs are interested in Brian Mbeumo. However, no bid has been submitted as of now. Champions League clubs on the continent also have an interest in the player. So more reliable journalists now jumping on the back of this story about Sammy Mockbell having interest to Tottenham. About Brian Mbeumo.
It does feel like it's another journalist who is piling the pressure on Spurs to make the right bid. So it kind of feels like, again, it's like the agent is working these journalists, giving them exclusives and stuff, saying, look, we are interested in this. They just got to get the right money. And by the way, there's also loads of clubs in the Champions League interested. Like, now starting to move away from the idea of Man United. That's what that update says, that he is not really that interested in Man United because he wants to play Champions League. That's how I take of it. Is that just insane? Is that just because I'm like?
No, it's not insane, but it doesn't mention Man United. You're right in that update. I mean, I have to see the full. Maybe they've just clipped a bit of his update and just put the Tottenham part in, if you know what I mean. But I understand what you're saying. Is he putting things out there? I've seen a lot of Man United fans suggest that this stinks of the agent putting out this message just to rush United along and get a higher bid.
There'll be a bit of that.
Okay, so no, he has posted an article titled "Tottenham have interest in Mbeumo." The article reads: Tottenham are interested in Mbeumo. He scored 20 times last season. 25-year-old former manager at Brentford, Frank, has now been named Tottenham manager. Early this month, Mbeumo was subject of a bid from Man United for 45 million plus 10 million add-ons. However, no agreement was reached between the two clubs, with the offer falling well short of Brentford's valuation. Sources have told BBC that Spurs are yet to submit a bid for Mbeumo, and further Champions League clubs are understood to be interested. It is understood there is no release clause in his contract, which still has a year left to run, although there is the option to extend it by another year. And then just goes on to his goal scoring record. So if 45 million plus 10 is well short of the valuation, what is the valuation, do we think?
I think it's like 60 plus add-ons. I think it's got to be something like,
you reckon?
So I think you're probably looking at all in maybe 70, 75. And to be fair, I think that's on par for what he probably deserves.
Yeah, because 55, I mean, 45 plus 10 for a total package of 55 was never going to do it.
If we got him over the line for 65,
I'll take that.
Unreal.
We paid that for Solanke, didn't we?
Yeah, I'm just saying, considering the players we've paid pretty big money for. What was Richie? Was it 60? Was it?
Richie was 50 plus 10, so yeah, 60. Yeah. Brennan was, I think, about 50 million.
Yeah. So you're looking at this guy. This guy was one of the top scorers in the Prem last year. Like, he scored 20 goals. I don't know how many.
And also like year on year, he seems to be improving.
Yeah.
When he first, I remember actually when he first in his first season in the Prem, everyone was talking about Tony, but I was looking at this guy. And I was looking at him, and he was playing so well, but he kept like hitting the post or hitting it just wide.
Yeah.
And he would cause an absolute nuisance. He was dribbling, causing problems.
Yeah,
but his finishing was just a tile, like inches away. But because if you miss, no one remembers, right? But I was watching, right?
Yeah.
And he was having loads of chances, and he would just actually I made a note, like the amount of time this guy hit the post. Like, he was always hitting the post constantly, but no one remembers that, obviously, because it doesn't go in. But all of a sudden, he's now starting to hit. I always said, once this guy starts hitting the corner instead of the post, he's going to explode. And he's getting year on year, he's gotten better. The first season, 11 goal contributions, 4 goals, 7 assists. Second season, 9 goals, 8 assists, 17 goal contributions. Third season, 9 goals, 6 assists. All right, okay, a bit of a drop, but still very similar level. And then last season really exploded, 20 goals, 7 assists, so 27 goal contributions. So year on year, he's been getting regular goal contributions, adding more and more to his game. And and I think now he's time for that step up. Like, this isn't. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's a one-off season. He had one great season. Everyone's overhyping." I'm like, you haven't been watching him. You clearly haven't been watching him.
And also, they moved Tony on, and he just became the guy. Like, and Vessa also did better when Tony went on. I remember one of the first times I saw Mbeumo and Vessa playing either side of Tony, and it was really interesting because I actually remember watching the game going, these guys are way better than Tony. Like, it wasn't a great game for Tony in that game, because I remember seeing Tony in the Championship and seeing some of the goals he was scoring. I remember I was wanting him back then and thinking, oh, get this guy. But seeing the way Vessa and Mbeumo, two different profile of players, seeing the way they worked in that game, I was like blown away. And I remember there was this moment where, I mean, Brentford were quite early in the Prem at that point, but I remember this moment where it was a really strong defender tried to kind of body check him, tried to just stand and body check Mbeumo, and Mbeumo just went into his shoulder, and he went flying, and Mbeumo was just gone. I remember thinking, this guy's a unit, man. His shoulders are massive. Like, he's, on close contact stuff, he's a beast.
Yeah, he's strong. Yeah,
I've always thought he was great. I also think he's really flexible. He's like agile. He can do like how many overhead or side overhead kicks, bicycle did he score last season? Like 2.
Good at volleys, yeah, very good with his volleys.
Good with volleys, good at just like, even I've seen him be quite a good little fox in the box as well, like getting really weird, like in nice little areas in the 6-yard box. So I think that's where you get 20 goals. You're unlikely to pick up 20 goals just being on the wing. You know, you've got to come in. You've got to be getting like striker positions. And then you see some of the goals that he did score. Sometimes he's one-on-one with a keeper. You know, so it's not. I think the way what Frank I think did was just took the chains off Vissa and Mbeumo. You know, just took the chains off them. Having Shadi, you know, so Vissa can go in centrally. I think that's why they scored more. You know,
both of them. It's a very similar role to like Salah, just like hang around, kind of say hi, kind of. Obviously, you do work for the team, but like when the opposition had the ball, you kind of half cheat, you stay a bit higher, so that when you get the ball quickly, very quickly into Mbeumo, very direct, get him into space, so that when he gets into that final third, he has a bit of separation from the defender to make things happen, whether play the killer pass, get the goal, score, take a shot. He's not a guy. I've seen a lot of people think he's a great dribbler. He's not a guy who's going to take people, like going to get the ball and just run past 3 or 4 players. He's not bad at dribbling, but that's not what he really does. He kind of, he's very smart. That's kind of why he was so successful. He's very smart about when he picks up the ball, when he decides to drive, when he decides to cut inside, when he decides to take the shot, when he decides to pass. That is, he's not like I feel like him and Semenyo are like complete opposites. Like Semenyo will get the ball and he'll try 5 or 6 dribbles a game, 2 will come off, and then like that's how he'll get his thing. And Mbeumo will try maybe 1 or 2 dribbles a game, but maybe they'll probably both come off.
Saying that, because what you're talking about is very much a lot of the stuff that Thomas Frank said in that video with James Lawrence Alcott, like when he was talking about principles. A lot of the things you were describing there were the principles of how he says on percentage of when you should score, when you should lay it off, when you should, you know. So you're looking, you've got a classic case study here. You've got Semenyo at Bournemouth, who pretty much is Mbeumo without all those principles. So he doesn't do that stuff. So put Semenyo in Brentford under Frank, and he might get those numbers. Do you know what I mean? And also that thing he said this thing where no matter what formation we are in, we must always have 2 players on high ready to get in behind, because he needs the team. He needs them thinking that we're going to go that way. And so when you've got Shadi, who's fast, he likes to have Shadi. So Vissa ends up being a player who comes into the midfield and does extra work if they're under the cosh. And then they have Mbeumo and Shadi up, you know, or if Vissa is up, one of them have to come down. So you always have 2 in attack, even when you're really, really under the cosh, which is quite cool, because I think that's what goes from teams when they are playing counter-attack football. Well, you have to have players up to counter. You can't just all sit, you know. So I mean, but he is versatile enough to, like, he does go into like 5-3-1. You know, he will do that if you're 1-0 up against City. You've seen him. He'll muscle out a win. You know. So yeah, it's very sound. I think he can get, once a player is getting decent numbers, give them to Thomas Frank, and you'll get them way better. You know.
I think that's what is most exciting about his appointment, is maybe a fresh set of eyes on this squad, different profiling of players, and seeing where he kind of thinks they'll fit in. And I think in terms of like seeing the potential of some other players that maybe we didn't realize, I think that's quite an exciting prospect that we're going to have under Frank. And I think he's done that consistently.
That's a lot of the danger when you have someone come in who is more of like this kind of principled, you know, kind of strategic manager, and also who's quite a people person, that if you come in and you expect us to just get rid of a lot of players who maybe didn't have that guy, like Bissouma's not had that guy at Spurs. And I feel in a way that, you know, Bissouma under Conte was just a mismatch of personalities. You know, Conte wants you to bend for him, work for him. Conte does not care about who you think you are, you know. So, and Ange is probably, I think Ange is more of a kind of arm around the guy, but you know, when Bissouma had a couple games and then Ange shat him out to the media saying, nah, he can't give, he's got to give more levels, and, you know, you can't not get, and, you know, it's like, I can see that killing, you know what I mean? Like the gaffer's just murdered me in the press, you know? So I think Bissouma under Frank might work. Like if you look at the abilities that we're just saying about principles, right? Semenyo, you got Bissouma here. You bring in the principles of what Frank does. You might make a world-class regista. You might make a world-class midfielder there. And so sometimes I kind of look at it and go, it's not that I just want loads of signings. I don't want that in a way. I actually do want him to give quite a lot of these players a bit of a chance in pre-season. And then, the thing, it might seem like a kind of contradiction if I say about Tell. I just think I'd rather keep someone like Bissouma, who has shown in games when he is on it, he can run a game. If he is on it, he can run a game. Same with Bentancur. We've got that quality in Bergvall. Gray is going to cut. Gray, you can see at right back, he can do a great job. You can see him. He can facilitate, and he will become a true top player. Before he kind of like later on in the season when he'd overplayed, he was one of our best players at one point. Like really necessary player. And I think with Frank coming in, he's going to do a good job on some of these players, building in what you do in a heated moment. You can see Archie Gray had no information on what he should do in a heated moment under Ange, because Ange there was no way they were going to give him that information. You know what I mean? Whereas I think Thomas Frank's going to have principles for every position in the park. When in doubt, this is your angle, go away. This, don't take risk. You know what I mean? So I'm quite excited to see what he can do with very specific players. I think if Sonny does feel after 10 years that this starting again, I totally understand if Sonny goes. And I think it's a good time maybe for him. It's hard to think about Sonny going, but it's the time that might be right for him to go. So I'm not like, it's not the end of the world if Sonny goes now. He's been like probably even a better servant for us than Harry Kane in his consistency over the years, right? One of the only players in Europe that have gotten to double figures every single season for goal involvements, And then also, if Romero feels so betrayed by the decision to sack Ange, and if Romero really does want to be in a hot country with his family in a Spanish-speaking hot country, then I'm totally okay with that. And I think then fine, let those players go, because I can see Romero being great under Frank. I can see Sonny thriving under Frank, but the time might be right to let them go. Whereas I actually think there's a big argument to keep Bissouma, Bentancur, Gray, Bergvall, Sarr, because actually I think all of them have it in that they become world-class midfielders, and even the look of the kid that they're thinking about bringing in, that's exciting. The Nikolai Pisili,
from Roma.
He looks exciting. I mean, I've only seen a video of him today, but he looks like that kind of Barella type regista, playing out the back, very comfortable and under pressure, beautiful, spraying the ball, So, if we get someone like that in, then maybe there's an argument for, moving Bissouma on. But what do you think about that? Do you think you'd rather see him? This is the thing about having to give a manager time. I think you kind of do have to see what he can get, If you've got a player,
this is what I've been saying. I made a prediction that maybe before pre-season we might get one big signing like an Mbeumo or an Eze, because these are the kind of players that, like, especially in Mbeumo, that he knows him, he knows his character, he knows what he would add to the squad, and obviously he knows his relationship and how good he is. So he doesn't have to take a look at him or take a look at the squad to know that he wants an Mbeumo. But I think for a lot of players, I've seen, we want a 6, right? A lot of people say we want a 6. Well, apparently he wanted Archie Gray because he thought he was a generational talent in defensive midfield. We've got Bentancur, we've got Bissouma. This is talent that Frank has never had before in his squad. He'll be licking his lips at this.
Why would you want to move that on?
Exactly. I think he'll be looking and thinking, we're getting rid of these guys? Are you serious? These guys are amazing. I think he'll be obviously different from Brentford's level than our level, but I think he's going to want a real good look at these players before he makes any decision on them, because I think he's good. As I've said, Frank has never had this level of talent at his disposal, right at his fingertips. So I don't think he's coming into this saying Bissouma's not good enough, this guy's not good enough. I don't think he's made any of these decisions yet, because he knows what he can do with bloody Norgard, and he knows what he can do with, I don't know, Wissa, who was an average winger before he got hold of him, and Jensen and Janel and Pinnock. He knows what he can do with these guys. So if he can do what he can do with those guys, imagine what he can do with a Basuma or a Bensko with unbelievable talent. And I think he's going to. I think yes, there will be players. I think after preseason, he's like, you know what, that guy's not good enough. Well, let's move them, go on. But I don't think he's going to make any of those decisions until he's had a real good look at the whole squad, in my opinion. So I predict a very quiet summer up until maybe after preseason, once he's had a good look at everyone. I'm just going to add in Kate here.
Yeah.
Big up, Kate, from Kate and Jimbo. Nice to have you. Welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Good. Thank you. Hi. Good to see you both. Yeah, good. Excited. Exciting times at Spurs after what's been a dismal, last season was particularly difficult. I think it's exciting times with Thomas Frank coming in. Now the news breaking that we're talking to Mbeumo, it can only be good.
Yeah, give us your reaction to that. We've been chatting about the potential of Bryan Mbeumo coming to Tottenham. There's obviously the talk is heating up for sure that there could be a hijack in the offing. Clearly, Tottenham are interested. He is still, though, a Man United fan from young, and apparently that's his preference. But given that Frank is his manager, who he trusts, who he knows can get the best out of him, where do you think he will land? If money is the same, do you think he goes with the manager he trusts, or do he goes with his heart with his boyhood club?
I personally think he ends up at Manchester United. I don't think he comes to Spurs, but I don't think that necessarily means that we should all be doom and gloom, because I think if we don't get Mbeumo, we're going to get Semenyo. So I think, every cloud and all that, but I kind of get the feeling that he set his heart on Manchester United. We came in for him before. I know that we didn't have Frank at the time, but we came in for him. There's rumours Newcastle went in for him. There's rumours Arsenal even inquired, but he sort of said, no, I want to go to Manchester United. And I think that's where he'll end up myself. I think Jimbo is completely the opposite, as most things. Me and Jim never agree on anything. But from my point of view, I think he will still end up at Manchester United. But it's good to see us going in for him. Frank, obviously, we know that he's got a great relationship with him, and it's good to see us actually going in and trying to get him. But I think he's already made his mind up.
You think if Man United put the money up, whatever Frank says, if you think it's kind of he's talking to deaf ears, you think?
I mean, I look at it for me. If I was obviously as a lifelong Tottenham fan, if Manchester United come in for me, same money, same situation, I'm going to Tottenham because that's the team I've always loved. And I look at it from that, and I do think that does come into it for players. And I think it's disingenuous, these people that say Man United are a dead club, they've got no pull. They're still Man United, and there is a sort of romantic idea that if you're going to be part of Man United's resurrection, it is a good place to be. So yeah, for me, I think he's made his mind up and he'll end up at Man United.
Jimbo, you ready to come on? Yeah, you ready?
I was ready anyway, Ben. I was saying no.
I thought you were saying no, don't bring me on. No
to my wife. I was saying no to my wife.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
How are you?
Guys, I'm going to shoot off, get some work done. Lovely to see you all.
All right, Gav. Lovely to see you.
I'll speak to you all very soon.
Appreciate you coming on, mate.
No worries. I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care.
So, I come on, they all go.
Exactly. Well, it's a revolving door today. Jimbo, so you disagree with Kate? Do you think, if the money's the same, do you think Frank kind of has a case to put forward to convince Mbeumo to come to Tottenham?
I said as soon as we agreed on Frank that Mbeumo would come, I was convinced of it. Why wouldn't he come, Sim? He's Tottenham Hotspur. Man United are finished compared to us now. Sorry, but they are. Look where they are. We've got Champions League, right? To me, it's a no-brainer for him to come to Spurs over Man United. I mean, they've got so much work to do. Brand new stadium, best training facilities in the world. We've got everything going for us. He's got his manager that he loves. They're meant to be really, really close. So why? If it was me, I know where I would go. That's for sure.
Well, if you're Mbeumo's agent, do you there's two ways of looking at it. Obviously, Man United, obviously a big club. Will they offer more money? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure right now. Obviously, big brand. You get immediate attention on you, all this kind of stuff. But if you've got like footballing ambition, is there any guarantee Man United get into the Champions League next season? No guarantees at the moment, given the way they're heading. Tottenham, at least you're guaranteed in the Champions League for next season. You've got that platform already to build on. And you've got a manager who can get the best out of you. You just scored 20 goals last season playing under him. You've got a great relationship with him. Who knows what your relationship with Amram is going to be? So, Kate, where do you think his agent would push him to a move to Man United? Or do you think maybe he's thinking, look, there's no guarantees I'm in Champions League. Even he could have to wait 3 years to be in Champions League and Man United potentially if he joins them.
I think his agent will say to him, "Where do you want to go?" And Mbeumo will say Manchester United, and he will say, "Fine." I don't think there'd be much reason for him to push him to Spurs. Yes, we've got Champions League, but if you're going to sit there, Jimbo, and say that Man United have finished, you could say the same about Spurs. We did get a trophy at the end of it, but it was arguably not the most difficult trophy to win.
And come on, Kate. None of that.
Arguably. I mean, I'm only going by what some people say. I think, the glory, it's beautiful.
Some negative Nellies. That's who we're saying it.
Kate, the proof is in the pudding. The trophy is in our cabinet, right? We're in the Champions League, right? If they've offered him 250 grand, Spurs can offer him 250 grand if they want him, right? It depends how hard Frank pushes for him. I think if Frank pushes for him to come, right, I think he will be here. And it's as simple as that. Why wouldn't he? Look, you can say Man United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. No, that's finished. Man United are not one. Kate, Man United are not one of the biggest clubs in the world anymore, right? They've dropped like a stone. I'm not saying they can't get back there, but they're not one of the biggest clubs in the world anymore. Arsenal are above them. City are above them. Liverpool are above them. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. We could keep going and going. Right, they're not the elite club they was, Kate, and that's just a fact.
They've still got the biggest fan base in the whole of the Premier League. They're a huge institution. Their history is mind blowing. You've got to give them credit, Jimbo, and I think they've still got the pull that they used to have. I do.
Footballing wise, where's he a better fit?
I think he walks into both teams and makes them both better. But I think he's perfect for Amorim, myself. Frank obviously knows how to utilise him. Look, it's difficult. I think literally he could play in either team. We both will be better for having him. But I think he set his heart on Man United. The fact he turned down Newcastle, Arsenal, these are all teams with Champions League football. I think that's just where he wants to go. I take my hat off to anyone that sticks to their guns. If he does choose to stick to his guns, or as much as I'd like him at Spurs, I'd take my hat off to him.
Yeah, and look, I think it's difficult when kind of he's already kind of confirmed he's a Man United fan, right? So all of a sudden, that means like he's just got that emotional attachment to kind of wanting to go there. But I feel like there's a very good case for professional reasons, footballing reasons. Tottenham will be the better place for him because we've seen big players go to Man United in recent years and really fail to kind of reach the heights that they were when they joined them. It's a club which is in a bit of disarray at the moment. I know you can say the same for us, but at least he knows he's got a manager there who knows how to use him, who knows how to get the best out of him. And there's no reason why him come to Tottenham, he can't replicate his Brentford form. Whereas at Man United, that's still going to be a bit of a question mark over his head. That's still going to be a lingering doubt, isn't it? And obviously, Man United potentially have financial issues. We don't know. They haven't put their money on the table. If we kind of put in a first bid that's very serious and gets immediately accepted, whereas Man United seem to be kind of haggling for it. I know we haggle as well, so maybe it's kind of fanciful thinking. But like if we kind of just put the money down and say, look, we're serious about you, come here, we really want you, maybe you'll think these guys are more serious about me than Man United.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I've rattled a few Man United fans in the chat. But do you know what, right? I'm only speaking realistic. You know, it's not like I'm speaking out my backside. They're not the club they used to be, right? They need a new stadium. Their roof's leaking, so I've been told by so many people. They need to spend a lot of money at Man United. you know. And as Amarin last year, he didn't look like he was getting better and better. He looked like he was getting worse, you know, as the season went on. And
but he hasn't had a transfer window yet, so I think it's.
I know that
he had one, Kate.
Yeah, but come on, not a summer window. That's where we tend to.
Wait, so there's no lack of transfer window an excuse for 15th?
I'm sounding like I'm a Manchester United fan here, and I'm not. But I'm trying to be devil's advocate, and I'm looking at it from the outside in. But look,
you've got to know where you are as a club, Kate, right? And
yeah.
and I just see someone put in the chat, 1 trophy in 17 years makes you a big club. No, it doesn't, because I know where Spurs are, and I knew where they were last season. And if ever you've watched me on stream, I've always said I knew where we was in the pecking order. But you've got to, as a Man United fan now, know where you are in the pecking order, and you're not near the top anymore, you know. And there was a time when Man United come to Spurs, and I used to say, this is 3 points down the drain. Or we went to Man United, and I used to say, this is 3 points down the drain. But it's not like that no more. We beat them 4 times last year. When have Spurs ever beat Man United twice in the season, let alone 4 times? So what I'm saying, Sim, is they're not the club they used to be. And it's just a fact. And they have to understand that. And I'm not sitting here saying they can't get there, because they are a great club and have been a great club through history. But at this moment in time, they're not the club they were. And that's just a fact.
Yeah, and people, you know, when we talk about, I saw some comments earlier saying, oh, they're Man United, they'll obviously be back. They'll obviously be back to their best. You know, Liverpool, how long did it take them to win the league again after, you know, when they won it in the 70s, right? When was it?
30 odd years. I think it was 30 odd years, 37
yeah, you know what I mean?
years or something.
United currently at what, 13 years now since winning the league? 13. That's nearly halfway there. Like, it could be a long time before they ever reach the heights they used to. Anyone thinking they're guaranteed to do it, and they're guaranteed to do it soon, I think have not been watching for the last decade. They're very much
flipping that on its head, Sim. How far away are we from winning a league?
Also quite far.
Exactly.
I mean, we haven't won it since the 60s.
No, exactly.
No, but I think Jim's point is, like, yes, that's true, but we've always been there. We've been there.
Yeah.
This is who we've been for the past decade. This is very past for however long. This is new to Man United. Man United think that they're still that club that was winning league titles consistently in the 90s and 2000s. They are not that club anymore. They haven't been for 13 years. And they're not this big name that kind of, yes, clearly they have some pull because they are a big name, but they're not this kind of team that people look at and think, wow, I really want to be part of that because we're guaranteed to win if we go there. Because they're not.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have seen that. But in terms of just talking about Bryan Mbeumo, Kate, how much of a statement would that be for you to get him through, get him through the door?
I think it'd be a massive statement. I think he's a real, like I say, all we ever want as Spurs fans is players that can walk in and make our team better, like an Eze and Mbeumo. We know they walk straight into our side and make them better. I think if we get him, it's not only a great statement signing from Levy, I think it shows that he's backing Frank, and it also shows us that Frank has got the ability to pull in some good players as well, because like we say, it looked like Mbeumo was done and dusted to Manchester United. If he does come in and choose Spurs, it shows that Frank's got a big amount of pull as well. So I think it's a win-win. It's a win for Daniel Levy, which he always needs the wins. And it's a win for Thomas Frank as well, endearing himself to the fans by bringing in one of, if not Brentford's best player. So it'd be massive, because we all know these transfer windows tend to be a little bit anticlimactic. So it'd be a great way to start the summer window off without any shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, do you think, Jimbo, that would be a statement of intent if we start the window off by getting Mbeumo, or is it just a case of, you know, he's a player that Frank knows well, and that maybe it'll be kind of maybe a one-off for this window?
Yeah, of course it will be. I mean, it's more of an intent for Spurs than it is for Man United, because Man United have always bought superstars through the years, you know, and at the minute, I don't think they've got many superstars. They got Bruno. I mean, who else is a superstar in their team? You know, but they've bought players that they thought were going to be superstars that haven't turned out that way. But we don't normally buy superstars, very rarely. They come to us and they're really good players and they build into superstars. So over the years, so it's more of an intent for us. And I just think to myself, we got everything going for us for him to come to us. Right? I think that we're set up better than Man United at the minute. We've got the stadium, the training ground. I think we've got a better team, right? Potentially under Frank. I think he'll make us a lot stronger than what Ange did. And I just think everything's set up better for him to come to us. And obviously he's going to be under Frank. He knows what to expect, than going under Amorim. So I just think that I'm convinced he's going to come to us.
I actually thought Man United had already put in a bid of 55 million that was rejected by Brentford, and Brentford had said they want at least 60. Am I wrong there? Was that not confirmed? This was like when the transfer window first opened.
Say that again, Kate.
I thought when the transfer window first opened that actually Man United went in with a £55 million bid that Brentford rejected and said they want 60 upwards.
Yeah, they've bid 45 plus 10 million in add-ons.
Right. Okay.
And apparently it's well off the fee that Brentford want for him. I'm guessing they want closer to like 55 plus 10 instead of 45. That's one.
Yeah, and I don't think that's out of the park.
Yeah, I mean we played the Solanke.
Exactly, and he scored 20 odd goals I think last season, and he's a lot of people saying that's too much money. I don't see it when you look at what we spent on Solanke and Johnson, and obviously inflation and what it's just what you have to pay these days.
There has been an update as we've been live. Bit of breaking news. Sam J. Dean, who's a reporter for The Telegraph. Tottenham are looking to hijack the move for Bryan Mbeumo. The prospect of continuing to work with Frank should Spurs choose to step up their initial interest could prove tempting for Mbeumo. So like a lot of people now seem to be jumping on this news. It seems to be snowballing a bit. So that tells me there's definitely a bit of truth to it. Like a lot of people suggesting maybe this is news being put out there to kind of entice Man United and get them to up their bid and make them panic. But I think it also makes a lot of sense for Tottenham to want him with Frank at the helm and how he would immediately improve our attack. And I think we've got the money to do it. I think we're looking for a bit of a statement signing early in the window to kind of cap off Frank's tenureship. So I think there is truth to it. I don't think it's just a ploy from the agent. What do you think? Do you think there's a chance, Jimbo, this is a ploy to get Man United to up their bid?
No, I said as soon as Frank come to us, I said to Kate, I bet you we end up with Mbeumo. That was before there was anything on the TV. I just had a feeling that he would go with Frank. I just see someone in the chat put Man United are a bigger club than Spurs. Historically, Man United are a bigger club than most clubs in the world. But you've got to look at where you are today, right? And Man United are not bigger than City today, right? Historically, yes. They're not bigger than Arsenal today. Historically, yes. And that's the way you've got to look at it. And I think for Mbeumo to come to us, he's going to have more chance of winning stuff, and he's got the Champions League than he is at Man United at the minute. It's going to take Man United, Sim, yourself, you've watched football, you've seen our club. It takes a while to build a club back up again. It doesn't happen overnight. Look at Chelsea. They threw £1 billion at their team, and it didn't. They still never built it up. They've won the what's it called? That cup they won, whatever
Conference League.
Yeah.
The Conference League, yeah.
And look at how much money they've spent. It takes time to get back up there. And what you people have got to realise that all the time you're building, other teams who have built are still throwing money at their clubs as well, like City, Liverpool, Arsenal. It's hard to get in this day and age. It's not like the old days. It's hard to get back up to become the best club again in this day and age. There's so much money in the game.
It will be an unbelievable coup if we manage to get him over Manchester United. When you think of days of old, when as soon as Man United came calling for players like Berbatov, you just knew there was no way he was going to stay. It's Man United, he's going to go. So if we could actually beat Manchester United to Mbeumo's signature, I think that's a massive coup for Tottenham and Daniel Levy. Huge. So it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. There's always a bit of drama. But I hope that if we do get him, we get him soon. We want him so that we get pre-season. We always leave it too late, to get the players bedded in. Hopefully, if we are going to get in, we get it done soon.
Yeah, hopefully, I'm sure this is going to be a transfer saga, which we have not heard the last of. I'm absolutely certain of that. Talk to me, guys, about Cuti Romero yesterday. Made a statement an hour. Oh, let's bring in Brian, actually. Before we move on to Cuti Romero, Brian, he's back in the house. How are we doing today, Brian? You had a little break from the stream, but you're back. And just before we're going to get into another topic, but before we do, I want to get your thoughts on Mbeumo, because the news has been snowballing since you left.
Okay.
More and more journalists are picking up on the story, saying there is truth to Tottenham hijacking this Mbeumo deal. I think a lot of them are still saying that United are favourites because he still wants to go there. They're also saying he's a lot of the reports are suggesting that Mbeumo is very much intrigued by Frank moving to Tottenham, and that deal could very much could happen really if Frank can convince him that Tottenham's the right club. So, with more and more journalists kind of getting on the story, are you getting more excited, or are you still kind of, knowing what kind of club Tottenham are, I guess?
So first of all, let me just say hello to the wonderful Kate and Jim. It's been a long time since we've been on the screen together, so it's wonderful to share the screen with them. Thomas Frank, Mbeumo, like you said, it's going to be intriguing, isn't it? We were talking earlier before I left that is it going to your boyhood club, or can Thomas Frank sell Tottenham to him? And I think Thomas Frank is the big chess piece in this, isn't he? If there had been any other manager that had come in to Tottenham Hotspur, I don't think we're having this conversation at all. I don't think there's a chance. I mean, I've heard Newcastle, there's rumours Newcastle are sniffing around as well, which could offer the Champions League football that Manchester United couldn't. Champions League football is massive. We all know the pull, and we've been told many a time we need to be in that competition to sign the big players. Well, we have got it, and if things are changing, I think Thomas Frank is a major cog in this, and intrigue is probably the right word, isn't it? He probably does want to hear what we have to say. The rumoured wages at the beginning of this was saying like we were prepared to pay 140, 150 around. Maybe that gets increased or heavily incentivised with bonuses. Who knows? But Thomas Frank is a major piece in this puzzle, and hopefully he's got enough about him, or you think he would, to convince him, wouldn't you? He's got more assurance with knowing what Frank can do and offer him.
Would you make the argument, Brian, for footballing reasons, Spurs are the smarter choice right now for Mbeumo?
I'm always going. Well, yes. That is head and heart, Simon. You've got a double whammy there. But right now, it is like you said. The only big thing about going to Manchester United for a for a fan, is should Manchester United turn it around with Amorim and whatever they do, to be a part of that as a Manchester United fan would be incredible, wouldn't it? It would be incredible. But we hear that players want Champions League football. They want to test themselves in the elite competition. And Manchester United can't offer that at the moment.
Yeah, and we don't know when United are going to be back in the Champions League. And as you say, Frank, he knows that if he goes there, he gets immediate relationship with the coach, immediate kind of knows he's going to get the best out of him. With Amorim, yes, in theory it should work, 4-3-4-3 and playing that right wing slot. But you just never really know, do you, until you're there in the team, how it's all going to plan out.
I think Sim. Yeah, I think a lot to do with it as well is if he chats with Frank, if they say what other targets they're heading for, I think that could be a big say in it as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Tottenham, apparently, according to some other reports, are still looking at Semenyo and Tyler Dibbling as well ahead of Mbeumo. But I think Mbeumo's clearly the superior player to both of those. I also think he's probably the most expensive. So whether we get priced out and look, okay, we're going to go for Semenyo or a Dibbling, I hope not. That would be quite frustrating. But look, Semenyo is also a good player. What do you guys think? I'll go to Kate first. Semenyo, is he a good alternative to someone like an Mbeumo for you? Do you like him?
Yeah, I've heard a few people on YouTube this week comparing the two, and quite a few. I think Johnny was one, said that Semenyo comes out on top in his eyes. I think
and Sean.
Yeah, and Sean. I think they're both excellent players for different reasons. But look, I just hope it doesn't end up where we get neither. Do you know what I mean? We're talking about both. I hope it doesn't end up with neither. But again, both of them walk straight into our team and make the team better. So if we can't get one, I hope we get the other. I think Mbeumo's more exciting than Semenyo, but I'll be happy with either, if I'm honest.
Yeah, what do you think, Jimbo? Do you agree with Johnny and Sean? Do you think Semenyo could be the better choice?
No, I would prefer Mbeumo, definitely. But look, I think Spurs have got the basis of a really, really good squad here, right? I think that Ange kind of lost his way a bit with the team. I think that he played certain games wrong, you know, and I think he put a lot of pressure on our players that were fit. I don't know what, we just didn't look right last season, Sim, in the league. And I'm not blaming it all on Ange because, you know, I love Ange, you know. I just think there was too much going wrong. I think with Frank, you know, what I've been reading, what I've been watching about him, he will organise this team and make a structure a lot stronger than what Ange did. And I think that we'll be a very, very, very hard team to beat this season. And I think with one or two players like Mbeumo thrown in there, I think we're going to be a really, really good team this season. I do. If you go through our team, right, we haven't got many bad players.
Agreed.
You know, I'm not saying we've got superstars, but we've got very, very good players. And
that's a good point, Jim, because, you know, Ben and I were looking at the squad numbers. You know, we've got these homegrown issues within the team for Europe. So because we've only got one homegrown club trained player, that means our squad next season is going to be limited to 22 players in the Champions League. We currently have a squad of 24 first team players. That means we need to get rid of two just to not be oversubscribed for the European squad. So any sales over the two, then we can bring one in for one out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the squad, and it's like, if we want to make 3 signings, we have to sell 5 players. Who are those 5? Who is those 5 leaving? You know, that's a difficult question. We'll get into that. I want to talk about Coutinho Romero. I want to get you guys' opinions. We spoke to Brian yesterday about it.
Yeah.
He made a statement an hour after Frank got confirmed yesterday as Tottenham manager, thanking Ange, and obviously we know how close their relationship was, but very curiously and very openly, I would say, criticised the problems at this club, should we say, saying that Ange overcame obstacles that have existed and have always existed and will always exist. Okay. Now, for you, was that a blatant shot at the hierarchy? If it was, does that mean his days are numbered? Is there no way back for him? Do you want him to stay off the back of that? What were your thoughts on it?
Look, I think it's one of those things you could read into it however you choose to read into it. You could look at that and say, oh, that's definitely a shot at Daniel Levy. But he hasn't always existed. He hasn't always been an obstacle. He's only been here 20 odd years. Maybe he's been here as long as Romero has known. But I don't think there's that much in it. I'm going to sit and say I don't think there's that much in it. I think Romero, he was obviously had a fantastic relationship with Ange Postecoglou, but I don't think that's his way of saying, get stuff, now I'm off, because you've sacked Ange. I think it's just us reading too much into it. I might be completely wrong. I still think Romero stays, and I hope he stays. I think he showed in the Champions League, he showed in the Europa League final, he is perfectly capable of being our captain. I thought he was epic in the final. And I think his attitude, his head's been in the right place. I can't believe that's all down to Ange. If it is, and it is just purely he was playing because he likes Ange so much, then I don't care if he goes or stays. But I'm choosing to think that wasn't a snidey dig at Levy, that he was just making a point that obstacles could be, you know, various things, injuries, they could be things of other teams, you know. I don't know. I'm just not going to read into
will
it.
always exist. It's very, I don't know, that's quite heavy, I would say. To be implying injury. I don't know, maybe all right, but
a lot of people are saying it's definitely aimed at Levy. I'm just choosing not to look at it that way because I think if you can read into most people's statements two ways. That's why I don't like text messages, because you can read them in one way.
But wait, Kate, do you think if people are right and it is aimed at Levy, is there no way back for him?
Not really. I mean, I don't think that means there's no way back, but it depends how Levy takes it. If he takes it as a personal dig and gets the ump, then yeah, maybe we'll let him go. You know, there's a lot of people saying he'll definitely go. If he goes, he goes. You know, we move on. I'm not going to cry, but I just would like to see him stay, personally.
Jimbo, what's your take on the Romero situation? Do you think it was a dig at Levy?
I know. I think it's just a statement he made. I mean, look, these players, right? Look at Ben Davis and Sonny. How many managers have they seen? You know, managers come and go. Players know that. You know, and maybe some players do get attached to some managers more than others. But at the end of the day, they're getting paid to do a job, and that job is play football for Tottenham Hotspur. Right? When Ange is there, they play football for Tottenham Hotspur under the guidance of Ange. Now it's going to be under the guidance of Thomas Frank. They know that. That's their job. You know, it's not. I can't see it making a blind bit of difference to Romero. Here, sit down, I would imagine, and listen to the talk that Frank's going to give everybody, and then he'll decide then if he wants to stay or go. But look,
what do you think he meant by obstacles that have always existed and will always exist? What do you think he meant by that line?
He probably does mean the hierarchy, you know, that make it hard for Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, look at some of the buys we could have had. We could have bought Grealish for 24 million, was it?
Mm-hmm.
And 12 months later, he went for 100 million. I mean, Levy does make problems for himself sometimes. But I think that it'd be down to Thomas Frank what happens with Romero.
I just think if he was aiming it at Levy, he would have put something more along the lines of obstacles that we all know exist within the club, or something like that. Obstacles
he did say that, didn't he? Kind of, basically.
He's just not saying the words you did.
Obstacles that have always existed. Well, he hasn't always existed,
so and will always exist. That's
nonsense.
But it has always, kind of, in footballing terms, it has always existed. 24 years is basically a lifetime in football.
Not for me, it's not. I mean, that's half my age. It's not.
Yeah, but in footballing years, that's a long time.
I just don't see it that way. But maybe me and Jimbo are looking on the positive side.
Look, let's be brutally honest here, right? Last season, how good was Romero last season? Through the whole season, how good was he?
Yeah.
What would you give him out of 10? But you got to go from the beginning of the season till the end of the season. What would you give him out of 10?
Probably 6, 7, yeah.
Exactly. He's one of these players. He's one of these players. He plays with what's in his head. If he's not in the right frame of mind, you don't get the Romero you should get. But it shouldn't be like that when you're getting paid to do an elite sport. Do you see Van Dijk play like that?
No.
You could probably pick in a whole season, probably 2 games Van Dijk is off it. You know, that's the difference between a world class player and one that's underneath them. And Romero for me is 2 in and out. You know, when he wants to play well, he will. If his mind's not there, he's all over the place.
So you'd be happy to sell?
Well, it depends what a Romero you get. If Frank can come in and keep him on it, he seems to lose. He seems to go through a period, Romero, where he's not with it. You know, where he goes into tackles like where to break people's legs and
moments.
Yeah, he has, but yeah, a bozo mode. And I just think if he went, would I be gutted? No, I wouldn't. If you want to know the truth.
Okay, let me ask you this. Well, I'll bring Brian in a minute, but let me ask you this, Kate. If it wasn't kind of a statement that was directed at anyone, what was the timing about? Why do you think he did it an hour after Frank was appointed? Do you think that was coincidence?
No, I think he timed it to perfection. I think it was a mic drop moment. He waited until the manager announced, and it was his way of saying, look, I'm not happy about what's happened, and I want to make it clear I'm not happy that Ange was sacked. And that part of it was obviously at Levy, because you can tell by the message, the way you read it, that he's not happy with the hierarchy for sacking Ange. So I believe in that part. I just don't think the whole obstacle thing myself is aimed at Levy. But that's me. I might be just looking on the bright side of life, which Jimbo's made me that way. Asked me 2 years ago, and I'm telling you that's aimed at Levy, but Jimbo's turned my mindset round. So I'm being a happy backer and saying he's not aiming it at Levy.
So what do you think,
You know,
Jimbo? What do you think about the timing then? Do you not think it was curious?
No, that was spot on. He done that on purpose. That was obvious.
I'm saying it was on purpose, right? So
yeah, he did it on purpose.
What was the purpose of it?
I suppose to get his point across that he loved Ange, right?
Yeah.
But then there's conflicting statements there, because there was a period in the middle of the season where there was a lot of talk that him and Ange never got on, right? And then all of a sudden we win this trophy and he loves Ange. So
I don't think that's true. I think throughout the season there's a lot of evidence that he was very close to Ange. Actually, a lot of evidence. If you see a lot of the reports about when he was talking to the Argentinian media after we lost to Brighton, a lot of the Argentinian media were criticizing Ange, and he called in to one of the stations defending Ange, saying, yes, we commit a lot of risk, but we'll get the benefit from it. He's a great manager. Also, he retweeted a tweet in December after we lost to Chelsea saying that if Tottenham do get rid of Ange, he'll look to leave, and he retweeted that tweet. So I think there's a lot of suggestions that he was very close to Ange, actually. And after there's also reports after we won the Europa League that before we won the Europa League, suggesting if Ange was to leave after the season, then their futures are tied together. There was reports saying that. There was one report, I remember what you're talking about, Jim, that said that he didn't get on with Ange, and that was from the Footy Insider, who also said him, Vicario, Bentancur were onto each other. But I didn't believe that at all. I think it was a rubbish article, in my opinion.
So in that case, Sim, he's not playing for Tottenham Hotspur. He's playing for Ange Postecoglou.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say to you.
It's this badge that pays his wages, right? The cockerel, Tottenham Hotspur, not Ange Postecoglou. So
agreed, but as a fan base, we all have issues with the board, don't we? Right? We have a board. We have issues with the hierarchy, and should we be surprised that the players maybe feel similar to that? And on the flip side, within that kind of context, we now have a manager who they feel is a winner, who they really like, they got on board with and won us a trophy. So they feel like we should keep this together, and maybe we can win more under him. And if they were to let him go, then there's no guarantee that we're going to continue to win trophies, or we can win trophies, I should say, under another manager. So they'll be very unhappy letting that manager go, because he's a winner. He's the only one who's proved he can win a big trophy under this ownership, I guess.
And that's above his pay grade. And it's like Madison said, they suffered this season, having to go week after week, loss after loss. You can't tell me any footballer finds that enjoyable, losing week after week. He's not paid to make.
He kept them believing, didn't he? That's the point. He kept them believing that they'll still win this trophy.
I know I get it, and the trophy's brilliant, but it weren't enough to save his job. So
agreed.
For me, getting them believing that they can win a trophy means nothing to me if they're going to play like dog crap every week in the Premier League. And Romero, maybe he thinks, if we stay together, but he's not paid to think that. He's paid to play football. So like it or lump it.
You want your players and the coach to have a close relationship, don't you?
Of course.
But not to the point where they down tools and have a strop if their manager gets sacked.
No one's saying he's downing. Well, I guess I'm suggesting he might want to look to leave. I understand what you're saying, but I think you want your players to have a relationship with the manager, so that even if they leave, they wouldn't be happy with that in a way. You don't want them to be unhappy that the manager's leaving, but you also want them to fester that relationship. And once they have it, that's why it's a difficult decision to sack the manager, because you've got the players behind him, and it takes time to build that relationship.
Poch had that though.
Was it right to sack him?
But you didn't really see the likes of Sonny coming out saying, oh, you know, you overcame obstacles to get us to Champions League final. You just move on. I'm sorry. I get what you're saying, Sim, but that's sentimental to me. They're paid to do a job. Yes, it's nice when they come out and say, I really appreciate you. You're a good guy. You know, Sonny's statement to Ange was lovely. But then you draw a line under it and you move on. You've got a new manager now. That's it.
I think Poch and Ange are two different scenarios. I think with Poch, I think his time had come to an end, Tim. I think that he looked tired. He looked worn out. He didn't look the same man. He never had the energy that he had before. And I think that wasn't his fault or the player's fault. I think Levy worn him down. I think that was the hierarchy that done that to him. But with Ange, we're 17th in the league, right, which is terrible. But he give us a moment of history, right? I've been a Spurs fan. Been watching Spurs 55 years, right? I've seen that before, but to see it again, this time was even more special. You know, he give us fans something, the club something that it's just never going to be forgotten. It's going to be in the history books. The man who said he'd win a trophy in his second season, and he didn't win the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup. He won a European trophy. You know, that was momentous. It was just unbelievable. So I can understand why they think it's harsh to sack him, because I thought it was harsh. I thought it was really harsh. I wanted him to go into a third season and see what he could do. I thought he'd earned the right for that. But at the end of the day, we're just Spurs fans. They get paid by the club, right? So they have to accept this decision like we have to accept it. Ange, I love you. I will always cherish what you did for us. But now I'm moving on to Frank, because now he's our manager. And they need to do that as paid players and athletes for the club.
Where are you on this, Brian? We've been talking about I know you spoke about it yesterday. You've had a night to sleep on it. Do you think definitely it was a shot at the board, by the way, that which, you know, Kate and Jimbo may think otherwise? And do you think he should be caring so much about about a manager leaving, and regardless of whether Ange is here or not, he's an employee of Tottenham, and he should be willing to put any of those feelings aside for the manager, for the good of the club?
My views on the message he sent have not changed one little bit. This is the second time this season he had to apologise, didn't he? Because he had a shot at Levy, and he had to get taken down.
Ange said he was wrong to do it publicly. Yeah,
exactly. It's the second time he's done it. Like I've said, with that message, and I put a tweet out after I saw the statement saying, whether you agree with the timing or his love of Ange or whatever it may be, the timing and everything is completely wrong. Completely wrong. And especially for a new manager to have to deal with that straight away, whether he's doing it to engineer a move or whatever, he's just done a smaller, more polite version of Antonio Conte. That is, in my opinion, a complete arrow at the board, or not the board, a particular person. As I said, once again, the timing is atrocious. The timing should not have been. You could all see that there's no coincidence that came out.
Yeah.
As soon as the manager was confirmed, he's had all week since Ange's gone, like the other players have had, to put this out. But this, there's no doubt about it. Saying the problems always exist. He's been here, and if we look at this, including temporary managers, he's had Nuno. He's had Conte, he's had Stellini, he's had Mason, and he's had Ange. He's had more managers than years he's been at the club. If we look at it, it's always changed. We look at transfer windows where we've been left short and unprepared. Nothing's changed. I think he's saying the problems have always been here since. I think he's talking about during his time. Sort of not going back in the history, not pre-Levy, not pre-Scholar. It's time at Tottenham Hotspur. The same thing happened over and over again. He's seen us qualify for the Champions League, get £150 million windfall, and we don't even spend it, and we spend £100 million on 7 players. He just sees the same things, repeat it over and over again. Now, like I said, the timing of it is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious, but there is no doubt in my mind that was a direct hit at Daniel Levy.
What do you think about what Kate said about his relationship with Ange, and that shouldn't kind of matter. Well, he's an employee of the club.
Yep,
and
correct.
And regardless of his relationship with Ange, it's not right that he kind of would look to leave just if Ange leaves. Like that isn't the kind of personality maybe that is me. Like you should be wanting to play for Tottenham, not for Ange.
That is that I completely agree with Kate. Completely agree with Kate. As we all say, there's no man bigger than the club. There's no man bigger than the club, and you are meant to be on the leadership team. No man, like I said, no man is big. I completely agree with Kate there. Completely. I mean, obviously, when they get back to the training ground, there is going to be a conversation held immediately, isn't there? With Frank, probably with Levy as well. And we'll see what happens. But I agree completely with Kate on that. What she said there.
What's your gut telling you, Brian? Do you think Frank can talk him around?
I think the bigger thing is, can a team afford to pay to get him out of the club? Maybe Frank can soften the blow of trying to stay at Spurs, but then you got to remember his contracts. Will he sign a new contract? That if he doesn't commit to a contract, then I don't think we've got an option. That's the thing.
You got left, Brian.
And I think it's 2 years now, Sim. Is it right? We're going into
2 years this summer, yeah. Yeah.
So you got to start looking at it that way as well. If he's feeling this way, then he's not going to commit. You've got to start looking at it that way. And do you want someone that's feeling that way within the camp?
Yeah. So in terms of you guys, go to you, Jim. Would you offer him a contract? Would you try and convince him to sign one?
Look, we know what a player he is, right? We know what he can be. I mean, let's be honest. Without him in the last section of the European Cup, we don't win it, right? He was fantastic. I honestly believe that. We know what a player he can be. He's won the World Cup. But for me, right, I love Romero. When he's on it, he's just sensational. But for me, since we've had him, he has too many periods where he's in and out, and then he has these bozo moments where he gets sent off, or not lately. I have to take that back, really. But he frustrates me, Sim, to hell, right? Because I look at other top defenders that don't do what he does, and he's a frustrating player because we know how good he is. I think that's. I mean, I don't really want to answer that because that's down to Frank to see what Frank can do with him and get out of him, and if he can get him back on the, with the right frame of mind. He just, for me, he's out of games too much. His mind's not there. Am I making sense? You know, he really, really frustrates me because we know how good he is, and sometimes I watch him and I just think, oh my God, what's happened to this guy? And that's that's the type of player he is. If you look at last season, he was probably worse more games than he was good.
I think we remember the bad ones more just because of how frustrated we are after those games. Whereas if he has a game where there's a little incident, we're not going to remember them as much. I agree with you, Jim. In terms of him in Europa late in the season, he was fantastic. And he really dragged us, I felt, to that Europa League title.
Yeah,
I think the way he defended. Yeah. And look, that's what he's very good at. He's so good in these cup competitions. You see for Argentina, he's won every cup competition he's ever competed in for Argentina.
Yeah.
2 Copas and a World Cup. He's never not won a competition that he's been in for Argentina. And that was a country that went years and years and years without winning a trophy, even with Messi in the team. They got to finals, they got very far, but they could never get over the line. Messi had never won an international trophy before.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So, this guy has a serious mentality. He knows how to get these wins over the line. But there is definitely a question mark over a league campaign when there's 38 games and you have to keep your concentration for every game, and whether he has that ability to be a top centre-back. Well, I guess the reality is we just haven't seen it at Tottenham. Him play.
I haven't seen enough of it.
Enough of it in a league season. Although he did get Serie A Player of the Year at Atalanta. So Maybe it is a Tottenham thing, but for sure, since he's come to Tottenham, I think we can all agree there's been a bit of frustration that he's just been a bit too inconsistent at the back, making too many mistakes at crucial times. Getting himself sent off sometimes at stupid moments. Bit of a hothead, bit rash. But we also know when he's got his mind switched on, he is one of the best in the league. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Kate, would you try and offer him a new deal?
I would, yeah, 100%. I think he's been injured a lot this season, but I'm not convinced, and I'll get slated for saying this, I'm not convinced that a lot of that isn't down to Ange's tactics and this, that, and the other. It might not be. I'm not saying it is, but it might be. I think
he's Romero, gone now. You can say it, Kate, to your heart's content.
Yeah, I still get abuse for it, but at the end of the day, I think Romero, he does have it in him, but I think since he's been put in the captaincy sort of group, I do think he's levelled out a bit, and I think if we can get a fee for Sonny this year and get Sonny out the door, I think Romero steps in as captain, which I think will do him the world of good. And that could be enough to convince him to do a renewal of his contract. However, if he won't renew, I would be trying to get a fee for him while we can. I wouldn't just keep him and let it run down so he ends up going on a free. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to keep him. I like Romero. I like his pairing with Van der Ven. But we'll have to see. It might have already made his mind up.
Moving on to, I got. You gonna say something?
Yeah, I was going to say. I think Frank will actually be a better manager for Romero than Ange.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, I think a lot. I think Dragshin and Danto will be looking at Frank, thinking, I can really be. I'm in the money here. I'm going to be a lot better. I reckon under Frank, because I think you saw what he did with Brentford and how compact they can be defensively. Like they're not always isolated. The centre backs they're kind of always got support. Whereas at Tottenham, we know that Romero and Van der Ven a lot of the time are isolated. They have to do a lot of it on their own. And when they're on top of their game and they're able to manage that situation, it works. But a lot of the time, it didn't work, and they needed that support. There's up against very good players, and I think Danto and Dragshin really struggled with that. All right, let's talk about the summer coming up. Frank's now obviously through the door, confirmed yesterday. As I mentioned before, Ben and I were looking at the squad, and to sign one player, we need to sell 3. So the question is, how many players do we need? And if we need X amount of players, how many players do we need to sell, and who are those players going to be? So, Kate, if I had to ask you how many players you need, and you say 4, that means we need to sell 4. If we say we want to sign 4 players, that means we need to sell. Then we need to sell 1, 2. We need to sell 6 players. We need to make 4 signings. 6 players. So look, I'm just that's just an example. So I'm going to go to you, Kate. How many players do you think we need? And if based on what you say, how many players? Who are the people we will sell to get those players in? Do you think? Oh, you're muted. You're mute.
Now look, even I can make these stupid mistakes. Blonde moment. Right. I think we definitely need 3. 3 or 4. Yeah. We need an improvement on our wingers. I think we need a strong defensive midfielder. I think maybe another centre back. I don't know, but we definitely need 3. As far as players selling, you've got to get rid of Richarlison this window, surely. He has got to go. I think Solomon we'll be able to get rid of because he's done well when he's been on loan.
But he doesn't count as being in the squad. So he doesn't go into the 5. So you need to get rid of 5 players who were in the current first team squad last season to fund 3 signings, or to get the squad places. I mean, 5 players need to leave.
So I would get rid of. It sounds savage saying that. Mbeumo, Richarlison, probably Odobert. I think we need to improve on him. I saw him
telling him ruthless.
I am ruthless. We saw him on his debut and I had high hopes, but since then I've not been overly impressed.
That's great.
Can they be loans or we got to sell them?
You can loan them out. They just can't be in the squad next season.
I'd loan out Mikey Moore.
Doesn't count. He's an under 18.
I'd loan out Archie Gray.
That counts. Yeah, loan out Archie
I don't
Gray.
think he will, but I would loan him back out to Leeds, I think. And who else am I going to get rid of? Oh my God, it's difficult.
It's
This is what
difficult,
you
isn't
mean.
it? A lot of good
It is
players.
difficult. We moan about our Sonny.
Sonny, you're getting rid of Son.
Yeah.
So you're
Sonny.
getting rid of Basuma, Richarlison, Gray, Son, and Odebear.
Yeah, but Gray on loan to
Gray on
Leeds
loan for a year. Very,
Yeah.
and then you're signing 3 players, and that's a winger,
a defensive midfielder,
defensive mid,
and probably another centre back.
another centre back. Well, only a few things I might put the spanner in the works in your business, I would say, Kate, is first of all, apparently Frank
loves Gray.
Frank loves Gray and he sees him as a generational talent. And so I don't think he's going to go on and go. And also, interestingly, I read a report yesterday that Frank is a massive fan of Richarlison. And apparently,
I read that.
Apparently, the Graham Bailey was reporting it yesterday. He said that he wouldn't be surprised if Richarlison actually starts the season ahead of Solanke as our number 9 because he likes him so much. That is what he's saying. And the problem is, if we don't get Richarlison, I don't see who we get rid of to make room. And obviously, you also get rid of Son. Oof. Big calls, obviously, our club captain. Jimbo, how many players do you think we need? And on the basis of that, who do we get rid of?
I think we need someone big, strong, number 6. I think we need. I'm not going to be as harsh as Kate because I think that people like Odegaard, Johnson, I think that Frank could get a lot more out of them. I think he'd pay a lot more attention to them than what Ange did. I think that our training, our coaching will be a lot more stringent now under Frank. So I think some of the players we've got, we'll be seeing getting a lot better out of them. It's hard. I think we need a number 6, big, strong number 6. See, with the wingers, you're saying, Kate, that we need another winger, right? I would love Mbeumo. If we get Mbeumo, I'd be over the moon. But it depends what he can do with the ones we've got, because I think there's a really good player in Johnson. I mean,
yeah, but I don't think there is an Odegaard.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Odegaard. Yeah, I haven't seen enough from him. But look, I would keep Sonny over Tell.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So I would let Tell go. I would keep Johnson over Odegaard. So I'd let him go. I'd keep Bentancur over Basuma. So I'd let Basuma go. So I find it really difficult, Sim.
Did you say you'd let Bentancur go?
No, I'll keep Bentancur.
Oh.
So wait, how many signings did you say we needed?
I think we need. I'd love to have Mbeumo in a winger. I think we need a number 6, big, strong number 6, and
Mbeumo, 1 winger, a number 6, and a centre back.
Do we need a centre back?
I guess if Romero depends on Romero, maybe.
If Romero goes,
George Kelly made a good point. Maybe we might be keeping Vuskovic around this season as well. But that adds a number to the squad, I think, in terms of Champions League.
What did you say, Sim? I misheard that.
Vuskovic, we might be keeping Vuskovic around.
Oh,
this
yeah.
season.
Yep.
But he's also, I think he would count as a player as part of the Champions League squad. If you're saying we need 3 players, that means we need to sell 5.
I'd let Solomon go as well.
You don't count.
Yeah, but he doesn't count. You have to let go of 5 players who were in the little squad last season.
Tell.
Yeah, that counts.
Basuma.
I should have said Tell.
Basuma, yeah.
You snooze, you lose, Kate.
I forgot him.
Tell, Basuma.
Odegaard.
Wow, okay. Culling.
Sonny.
Gray on loan.
Gray on loan as well.
Sonny.
And I think Danso.
Danso.
No.
Not Dan, so the other one. Dragusin.
Dragusin.
No, I love Dan, so sorry.
What are you doing, Jim? What are you doing? You're sitting in the wrong.
You know what? I love Dan, so I love him.
I think he's brilliant.
So you're placing those 5 with one winger, defensive midfielder, and a centre back, or 2 wingers. And no, what are you placing it with?
A winger.
One winger, and let's say Mbeumo. Defensive mid?
Yeah. Do we need another striker?
Well, if you're keeping Richarlison and Solanke, probably not, unless you want to get rid of one of them.
I would have said Richarlison, but I think it's a waste of a pick because I think he's going to keep him. But if it's down to me, I would have said Richarlison.
Yeah, it's down to you. You're the manager, Jimbo. It's down to you.
Oh, God,
Richarlison.
Richarlison.
And bringing another forward, yeah.
I'm taking back. Sorry, I'm taking Archie Gray back and putting Tell there. I forgot.
Okay, you're keeping Gray. You're getting Tell.
I'm keeping Gray.
Brian, where do you stand on this?
I still stand with the 3 players. I think it is 3. Definitely a right winger. I was saying another left back beforehand because I don't want to see Spence covering 2 positions. And I was, like we were saying earlier when we were doing the update at the beginning, when we started talking about Gray and Thomas Frank, maybe, like we were saying, maybe he is the 6. We all know we want a 6 and we all want a powerhouse, a hard as nails guy to come in there. Maybe it is Archie Gray. Not saying he's the hard that we all think we need. Maybe he sees Archie Gray like a Michael Carrick in the 6, but a more cultured one of that. So I would have said a number 6. Until we had that conversation this morning, I would have said a number 6. So I'm going to go for. I'm not going to pretend to be Frank because Frank is my guy. I'll pretend to be Justin Cochran. I'm Justin. I'm the assistant manager. So I'm going to say a winger, a number 6. Sorry, a winger, a left back, not a number 6. A winger, a left back, because I think Frank might use Gray after our conversation. And I am going to say a striker. And Richarlison.
So you need 5 tails.
So Richarlison, 5. My God. My connection's about to go a bit silly. Right, okay, 5.
5 players who were in the squad last season need to go. It's mad, isn't it? That's the situation they're in.
Ben Davies.
Yeah. Selling Benny.
No, the only reason I'm saying Ben Davies, I think he signed that contract extension so we can get money off of him.
Okay.
That's why I think he has signed that contract. So I'm going to say Ben Davies, Richarlison, Mikey Moore out on loan.
Doesn't count. He's under 18. I mean, you can sell him. You can get rid of him, but it doesn't count.
No, I'm not selling him. You and your rules, Sim. You and your rules.
My rules is
Premier League.
Take that with UEFA.
Okay, that's what I'll do. I'll make a quick call. So wait a minute. So what have I got? Davies, Richarlison,
Basuma.
So I've got to get rid of 2.
Tell.
No, Joe, I think Tell, if he comes in with a new, put it this way, would I bring in Tell? Probably not, but I'm going to keep him there just because I think Frank might go ahead with it. So I've got to find 2 others.
2 more.
Donnelly out on loan. Can I have Donnelly?
Simeon,
you're too strict here. You're too.
Wasn't in the squad. That's not the rules.
Thank you, Dragon Paul. Thank you, Valise.
Wasn't in the squad last year.
Shut up. He's back. He's in the squad. I'm having Valise.
Doesn't matter. I'm talking about that. We have currently who in the first team squad of last season.
Oh my
we have
gosh.
24 players.
It's hard work being a manager, isn't it? It's hard work. Yeah. Right, I've got to find another 2.
And this also isn't even including Werner. We're not even including Werner.
Okay.
As well.
Manor Solomon.
Doesn't count.
For fuck's sake, it doesn't count. But Manor Solomon's going to go and make this too hard for me.
2 more. Right now, you've got 1 signing in the door, Brian.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, I feel like I'm on Jeopardy or something. The countdown clock is going down on me. Let's think. I don't want to say Son. I don't want to. No, I'm not going to say him.
Ronnie in the chat's picked a good 5.
Where's Ronnie? I'd keep Sarr. I would keep Sarr.
Yeah, he's picked a good 5.
I think Sarr's going to be someone that actually develops quite heavily with with Thomas Frank. Okay, let me go through the squad again. Okay, I'm going to take Dragusin out on loan to get his fitness up.
Okay, you know what? That's not a bad shout. Loan him out after an ACL.
Get some fitness. So that's 4. Then I've got to lose something else. Yeah, let me send Odebear out on loan as well. Thank you, Kate.
Odebear out on loan.
Thank you. So I've completely forgotten the 5 I said, but I'm sticking with it. Locked in. Final answer.
So we're not bringing a striker. You only have one striker in the squad.
No, I said bring in a striker. I said bring in a striker.
Striker, winger, and left back. Okay.
Yeah.
Striker, left back, and winger.
Yeah.
So if that winger's in Mbeumo, so your wingers will be in Mbeumo, Johnson, Tell, Son. Not bad.
But also, I think Johnson, like I've said, I think Johnson is going to be more central. I think Johnson will be, like sometimes what we did with Kulusevski, he moved central and then he went right if need be, whatever. That's how I see Johnson this season, being like with the second striker or around more centrally and offensively. I don't see him being out on the wing unless need be.
I think I'm signing a centre mid. I'm signing a right winger, and I'm signing. Who else am I signing? Centre mid, right winger.
Sim's seeing if there's any way you can sign Ange Postecoglou back.
And I'm also signing a cup manager.
Scott Martin.
Yeah, I guess as left centre back / left back kind of hybrid player. I think someone who can cover both those positions. Then I'll get rid of Bissouma. I'll get rid of Davis. I'll get rid of. I would loan out Dragusin. I would get rid of. Oof.
Yeah, now the shoe's on your foot, Sim. Now you've seen how hard it is for me.
I don't want to say Richarlison. I think. Well, yeah, Rishi. I guess Rishi.
See, the thing is, Sim, you're not saying him because you think he's going to keep him, right? It's like Davis. I never said Davis, and I'll tell you why I never said Davis, because I think they'll keep Davis, and then when his contract's up, I think he's going to go into the background in Spurs and do things in the background. I think they'll keep, because he's been here so long, and he's just a real good guy, and I think he'll be a good ambassador for the club. That's what I think they'll do with him.
Yeah, I think unless we keep him and just don't include him in the Champions League squad.
That's very possible.
Could do that. Just not include him in the squad. So leaving out the squad, I've got Davis, Bissouma, Richarlison. I can't say Son. I can't even bring myself to say it.
Why can't anyone say Son?
I love him too much.
His time is
up. He's nice, Sonny. He's our club captain. I can't say Son. If he's hit him, I can't sell I also think he'd be really good under Frank. God, it is so hard, isn't it? I said Dragusin already, didn't I? So Dragusin, Davis, Bissouma, Richarlison, and
so you'd keep this?
No, Bissouma, Richarlison, Dragusin, Davis.
Odebear?
No, I don't want to get rid of Odebear. I want to give another opportunity. I want to give Tell. I want to give everyone an opportunity. I guess it'll have to be Son.
Let it out, Sim. You'll feel better for it. Let it out in the system.
Oh, I don't like it. I feel dirty.
In 1 week, Sim has had to get rid of his boomerang and now say Sonny's being sold.
No, it's coming back, people. The boomerang's back. If I'm getting rid of Son, we've got to bring Ange back. I can't lose both. It's too much for my heart to take within a week. But anyway, I guess this exercise was for me to prove how hard it is we got it this summer. Really, we do have some very difficult decisions to make this summer. And that's going to be the first point of call for Thomas Frank. He's going to have to make some ruthless decisions, isn't he, Kate?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think Sonny's the main one, to be perfectly honest with you. I think as much as I love Sonny, I absolutely love him, but this season exposed that Sonny is not Sonny of old. He reminded me of us playing Hugo Lloris until he dropped. I just hate to see a player's career just fade away. And I think if we can get some money for him, get him to Saudi and invest it in the club, I think Sonny has got to go. Otherwise, we'll end up losing him on a free, or him just we're never getting any money for him. I think it's just his time for him to go, but it's a massive call for Thomas Frank. I wouldn't want to be the manager that decides to sell Sonny out of this club, but that's, for me, is one of the biggest decisions he's got to make this window.
But it does make, you're right, Kate, it does make sense, because how much are you going to get for him in another year? You know, it does make sense to sell him, but it's a very it's sentimental, isn't it, with Sonny? We love him. You know, he's been here so long, he's part of the furniture.
But we don't want to see him ruin himself, and he's already showing that he's poor.
When they get all tatty, you tell me to throw them away, and I pretend I've thrown them and hide them in the wardrobe somewhere. I can't throw them.
It's a perfect time for Son to go. He lifted a trophy for the club that he loves, the club he's been at for 10 years. You know, he was our captain when he lifted the trophy. It's time for him to go now.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
he's still got almost goal contributions last year. You know, he still was there, even though it was a bad season. He's got I think in all comps, he got 22.
He got a few.
He got quite a few, and I think he wasn't playing in his proper, like, I think the way Ange plays, keeping him wide left and not closer to goal, didn't help him. I think Frank, the way he plays his wingers, is going to help Sonny. I think.
Yep.
And he's also our club captain. And who becomes our club captain, Kate, if Son goes?
Romero, if he stays, and if not, we give it to Madders or Kulu.
Madders or Kulu.
Or Porro.
No Vicario.
Or Porro. No, I don't like goal. I love Big Vic. You know, he's looking over my shoulder. I don't like goalkeepers as captains.
Jim, if Son and Romero leave, are you happy to give it to Maddison?
After watching him with the parade, and you can see how much he loves Spurs, and what he spoke about. Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah.
Brian, you were you saying Porro?
I love Porro when you watch him in games. He's the kind of, you see how passionate and everything is. That's my idea. That's my idea of a captain. Obviously, Sonny is a different kind of captain. I come from the days of Keane's, Vieira's, Terry's, Adams, where they're Stuart Pearce's. I know they're a dying breed in modern football, but you just see the passion and the energy from Porro. I think maybe not straight away as captain, but definitely if there's 2 or 3 from the leadership team that leave and Frank forms a new one, I would definitely have Porro in there. I think Vicario is obviously up there. I'm with Kate again. I prefer a captain not to be the goalkeeper. But I think a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, Porro would definitely, Vicario would definitely be in that list. There's people saying Kulusevski. Again, we've got to remember Kulusevski's not going to be about till Christmas. Yes, he can do stuff around the training ground and everything and be vocal, but on the pitch, you need your leadership team. So I would love to have Porro in that. I think it'd be great in the leadership team.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Kate. I think Maddison and Decky. Decky's got great mentality. I think he's got respect to the squad. I think people just have kind of perceptions of Maddison and what kind of person he is, and then that doesn't really work with what their perceptions of a captain is. Maybe if you make him the club captain, he'll take a bit more responsibility, which I think he has taken on since he's become vice captain. But I think the guy can be a leader. I think he's a good talker. I think the people respect him. So I don't have a big problem with Maddison being captain. But I see people saying, "Oh, he's not the kind of character we want. This and that. He's not a leader." People accuse Maddison of not being a leader, but I think he can be. I think he can be. I think people see his personality as like a joker and stuff like that, and they don't. That's why he can't. But I think he can be.
I've never been a Maddison fan, Sim. I never wanted him. I've never liked him particularly. But then when we won the Europa League and I watched him speak so eloquently about Son, about how much the club means to him, he went massively up in my estimations. And I think he gets kind of a bad rap because he said, you know, everyone says they want characters in football, but then when you show a bit of character, you get slagged off. It's like Jude Bellingham. He's another example of it. And I think maybe I misjudged him. And I think a captaincy on someone like Maddison to give him a captaincy would really elevate his game. And I think his confidence would go through the roof as well. So he'd be my choice, I think.
He comes across well as well when he talks. I saw him talking on TalkSport, and they were trying to drag him into having a dig at someone, but he wouldn't. He stayed very humble.
That was Simon Jordan, I think. They were trying to get him in.
That's right.
Simon
And
Jordan.
he stayed very humble, and he got a lot of respect from me for the way he acted there.
Talking about obviously going back to the manager, we haven't obviously got your opinions on the appointment since he's obviously been appointed. Obviously, we know your opinions on Ange. We know you wanted him gone. You're happy he's been sacked. Is this for you, Kate? Are you confident we've got it right? This is the right appointment. This is the guy to take us forward. This is the manager that can get you excited.
Yeah, it wasn't my first choice. It was in my top 3, but it wasn't my first choice. I wanted Glasner really, but I think when Palace won the FA Cup, that kind of sealed that he would stay there. But I've always liked Frank. I think he has Brentford playing excellent. He's very calm. He's another guy that comes across as an absolute gentleman. I think he's got real class, the way he speaks. And what I like about this position, like the fact we've hired Frank, is sometimes in the past, like even with Ange, people like he never stays anywhere more than 3 years. Conte, he never stays anywhere more than 2 years. I see Ange could possibly be in a real long-term appointment if it works out. I mean, he was at Brentford for 7 years. And I think if he's happy at a club, he'll stay at a club. I'm actually so excited about the new season now. We really, you know, Ben, we did the pre-match pump-ups. They were getting harder and harder week in, week out to try and keep everyone pumped up under Ange because it was the same thing in and out, week in, week out. But I'm really excited to see what a real coach could do with this bunch of players because I think no matter where you stand, whether you're a Tottenham fan or not, I think most people can agree we're not a 17th place team. Our squad is far better than we're not even a bottom half team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Frank can do with them. And just things like his press conferences, not having the chaos and, you know, just bringing a bit of calm and a bit of just organisation. I really am looking forward to seeing what Thomas Frank can do.
Jimbo, you echo those thoughts?
Yeah, look, I lost faith in Ange right near the end of the season. I stuck with him all through the season, and it started to when we got getting loss after loss. I mean, we went to a few games, me and Kate, and the one against Ipswich was so painful, and I started to lose a bit of faith with him. And I said on the stream I thought that the Premiership was a step too far for Ange, and then he proved me wrong, which I loved. Right, and I'm gutted that I never stuck with him the whole way. But now he's gone. I love him, and I think Frank will come in and do a fantastic job. I really do, and I think that if I was brutally honest before they sacked Ange, if you would have said to me, Ange or Frank, in my head I would have probably said Frank, but in my heart I would have said Ange for what he did, you know. But I think Frank is very structural. He will get it organised. Everybody will know their job. You know, that you won't see people wandering like we did under Ange in certain games. I just think that he'll bring something to this club that it's needed for a long time, you know, and I just believe that he's the right person. He'll put his arm around the people when he needs to, you know, and I did see one of, I think it was on your show, Sim, when you had the Brentford guy on there. He said he's not only good with them to do with the football in their private life. If they have problems, he's there for them. And I think that's invaluable. So
that reminds me of Poch, really, that kind of dad arm around the shoulder type of manager. It does bring back Poch vibes, and I think that's needed because of the young players we've got in the team. Sorry to jump in there.
He's got a very good calmness about him, Sim.
Yeah.
When you see him,
do you guys believe quality-wise he is up there with the best managers in the league?
Look,
I'm not sure he's up. Go on, Jim. You go first.
Well, I was going to say it's very hard to say because I've not followed his career, right? But what I've seen of what people like Sava have put on the stats of compared to what he's done to what he's spent and things like that, he's obviously a fantastic manager, right? Now he's coming to a bigger club now in Spurs, so he's got to prove he can do it there. But then I hear other managers talking about him and other experts in football talking about him, and they think that he's up there with the best. So I can only go by that.
Yeah.
I think the end of next season.
I don't think he's an elite manager, but I think he's a very good manager. I certainly, no disrespect to Ange Postecoglou, but I think he's more suited for the Premier League than Ange. Got more experience in the Premier League and will do better in the Premier League. But I don't put him in the bracket of Pep Guardiola or anything like that. But I think he's as good as Poch, in my opinion. And I think we need someone like that who's going to develop these young players and organise the team and also be adaptable. So every week we're not sure, or more importantly, our opposition aren't sure how we're going to play, what formation we're going to play. And we all know that Frank likes to sort of shake it up a bit week in, week out. And I think that's what we've been lacking.
I know our resident Frankaholic over there is probably very, very happy with the appointment of what's going on at the moment. Obviously, we're still awaiting his first official interview, Brian, as Tottenham manager. We obviously got the announcement yesterday. How excited are you to kind of hear him finally speak as Tottenham manager?
Mate, you know what? I've just had this image pop into my head. You know why it's all being held? Do you remember when we used to have the Pochettino arm around the shoulder signing a contract? His first interview is going to be him and Mbeumo signing his contract. It's going to be like, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we're... No, in all seriousness, I'm surprised nothing has come out. I thought after the announcement they'd be quite quick on it. Maybe they're doing that as we speak. Maybe when we're thinking all things were getting done the last couple of days, they weren't. I will say, listen, I can't hide my absolute elation over this appointment. He is an incredible coach, and it's what we wanted. It's what Spurs fans... Taking away Ange Postecoglou, and I can see, like I just mentioned to Kate, the Ange Postecoglou rage syndrome is wildfire at the moment and labouring all the blame on the incoming manager rather than anything else. Thomas Frank did nothing wrong apart from do very, very well in his job to get a bigger job. That's all that's happened, but Thomas Frank is taking the heat. We needed a coach that was on the training ground, drills players, has different formations, sets up tactically, looks into the opponent, everything that people were saying they wanted. But because he's come from Brentford and because it's Thomas Frank, everyone's going, oh, it's a Levy choice because he works on a budget. If he's worked on a budget, he's done bloody well on it.
Well, what did Frank do at Brentford, Brian?
Mate, he's what do you mean? As in, what has he done?
Well, his budget there. It was like,
exactly. He's worked absolute miracles.
Yeah,
and then people are going, he's come
$1 million a year.
Mate, he's got the low. We've spoken about all the salary. I'm not going to keep repeating what we. But he comes to Tottenham where his budget is going to be night and day at Tottenham, night and day. Whether I love Levy, whether I believe Levy, hate Levy, whatever it is, his budget is going to be clipped. His budget is going to be absolutely dwarfed to whatever he's ever had at Brentford. And he's going to get the chance. And then should Mbeumo come, all the people going, oh, he's coming to work on a cheap budget. We'll have to see what the rest of the window does. But all he has done is done extremely well in his job and shown that losing stars, and Brentford have had to lose stars, not because they want to, but because they have to. And then you look at how he is Even the support. Look how the supporters are talking about him. Go and watch stuff where you see him after the games. He brings the fans so involved in this. We wanted a coach. We've got a coach. And like we were saying yesterday, Simeon, all the people, all we've got is the unknowns. People are going, oh, he's never managed in Europe before. How's he going to handle 4? I don't know. He doesn't know. But why is that a negative thing? He's got the chance. It may not be. I remember with a Pochettino team, we didn't get out of the group stage one year.
Mm-hmm.
No one was going, oh my God, Pochettino, Jesus Christ, you crap. He's going to take time. This guy plays so many different formations. Thankfully, this has been done very, very quickly. And fair play, I will say, fair play to Tottenham.
Quickly on that, the Poch team that didn't get out of the group stage was the best team in the Premier League era. Was our best team in the Premier League era.
Exactly. So he's coming in. He's going to get a full pre-season. Spurs haven't did it. I will say fair play to Spurs and everyone involved at Spurs, because we've heard Levy was heavily involved, but there's also rumours that Vinay obviously was heavily involved as well. Spurs have acted differently to any manager search apart from Pochettino, Redknapp and Mourinho that came in the next day. This has been done very, very quickly, very directly. Fees agreed, compensation, everything done. Now we get to see what Thomas Frank can do. But why he's getting so much heat thrown at him for doing very, very well at his job just blows my mind. I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it again. He will win people round. People will very much warm to him, and let's just see what he can do.
Agreed. A bit of interesting breaking news coming out of Tottenham. Apparently, they've started legal proceedings against Ineos due to a termination of a sponsorship deal that Ineos had at Tottenham. If you notice on the chairs, I believe, on the sideline, Tottenham actually had Ineos sponsor them. And Ineos terminated it early, and Tottenham have started legal proceedings. Now, how would those legal proceedings affect any sort of transfer tug of war for Bryan Mbeumo? Maybe if we ramp up the legal proceedings, they can't afford Mbeumo anymore. if we would have
playing chess, he was playing chess whilst everyone's playing checkers. My God.
That extra 10 million they need for Mbeumo, we're going to take it in legal proceedings. I don't know how. Look, I've got no idea how much they're suing them for, but it would be quite funny and ironic if Levy, instead of trying to bid more than United, he just sues United. sues them for the money so they can't afford Mbeumo.
Never a dull moment at this football club.
That would be funny. Look, I think that's all we've got time for today, but appreciate Kate and Jimbo for coming on. I appreciate you coming on. Actually, you know what? We've got a couple of super chats which I haven't read out, so let me get them through first.
Brian, is it your birthday today?
No, listen, James Flower is literally. There was something.
I wouldn't have not mentioned your birthday. If it
no. There's basically there was someone's birthday in our group chat. I said happy birthday. Then someone said, "Oh, it's your birthday as well." And then James Flower's got all the chats. So my birthday is the same day as my anniversary. Sim, you should know it because we share the same actual day number. 22nd of June is my birthday and my wedding anniversary. So if you see James Flower, who is the culprit, saying happy birthday to me, it is not my birthday. I'll get my passport.
Guys in the chat, whatever you do, do not say happy birthday to Brian.
Until the 22nd of June. Now, John, the
last thing you do, don't say happy birthday to Brian today.
On the 22nd of June now, everyone's going to forget like a surprise birthday party. No one's going to say it now on the 22nd of June, which is my actual birthday. Thank you, James Flower.
And of course, everyone's saying happy birthday to Brian.
I'll say it's nice and early. It's always nice to receive it early. So yes, thank you.
So let's get some super chats. Lazy 8 says, regardless of whether his statement, talking about Romero here, regardless of whether his statement was aimed at the board, regardless of whether his statement was aimed at the board or not, it's a calculated move to advance Romero's brand. I'm confident if he thinks he's bigger than Spurs and sees himself at a super club soon. Maybe is it him trying to? Is his way of forcing a move? Maybe putting the blame on Ange, kind of thing. That him leaving, kind of blame on Ange.
It could be, could there?
Maybe.
It could be.
Yeah, we know that he's the kind of guy who wants to be kind of competing at the top every year, doesn't he? And I think he sees himself at Madrid or Atletico Madrid or one of these clubs. So, yeah, it could be. It could be something to it. Malware says Frank's first season, finishing 8th, pulled off a double over Arsenal in the league and also beat them in the FA Cup. Would you accept that season? But
No.
we don't win the FA Cup, I'm assuming. He just finishes 8th and knocks Arsenal out of the FA Cup and does a double over them. Would I take it now? No. Would I accept it? Has it happened? Probably.
Is that win the FA Cup or beat them in it?
Just knock Arsenal out of it.
No.
I've got to say with this, I've said it before. My prediction, my right here, right now, and I said if it would be any manager and anyone had come in, 8th was where I'd say we'd finish around. Now, I don't know why people are looking at 8th and turning their nose down at it. This is not just the big 4 anymore. You've got the big 6, like we were saying yesterday, Sim, and then you've got Forest. This isn't
And
when Pochettino came in. They're exactly. Hopefully, we can eclipse Liverpool and Newcastle. But when Poch came, it was about dislodging the big 4 that were the big 4. Now it's a completely different ball game. And people saying 8th, we were 17th this season. Whether we were throwing it away for the Europa League, whatever you want to believe with that, we were 17th. This isn't what it was back then. If we get 8th in his first season, that's the minimum for me. Anything but below is not. It's not deemed for me that he hasn't done as well as I thought he would in the league. But we've got to start looking at it. People are turning their nose down at 8th. We're definitely not finishing in the top 4 unless we have an absolute incredible season. Then it's what Villa and Newcastle do, and obviously with Forest, so 8th and above. In the league, I would do a successful league season. As for the rest, then that's something different. But 8th, like Malware just said, we've got to be realistic with our expectations.
Yeah, I think 8th's acceptable, but I expect us to get to a final of a cup if we get 8th. Between 8th to 10th, I expect us to get to a final. But if we finished 10th with no final, I'm not going to be bloody Ange is in my head. I'm not going to be Frank out. He needs time, this guy. But I see us. We've got to finish in the top 10, but I would hope that we can finish in the top 7. But we'll have to. Time will tell. I had us to finish 7th this year, and we finished 17th. So what do I know?
Okay, I will say as well. We're having this talk. I think it's a lot more reasonable to say let's have this talk after the window closes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We could have an exceptional window, or we could have a window that is a huge letdown, like they normally are, and then you have a look. That's where we got to look at it. The window's coming. Let's see what we do. But right now, whatever manager would have come into Tottenham or Ange Postecoglou have stayed, I would have said let's get back in the top 8.
Sim, I think if we have a good window, the quad is on.
The quad.
The quintuplet.
I've heard, apparently Frank can just adapt to any situation. So I'm expecting 38 out of 38.
He's like water, mate. He's like water.
Mate. You can adapt to anything. Doesn't matter how anyone plays. Frank's just going to perfectly adapt.
Invincibles.
How's everyone going to feel? How's everyone going to feel if we beat PSG in the cup? We're going to feel great.
Oh, I said that to Brains before. If we beat PSG and win a Super Cup, everyone's going to be on the Champions League hype train. We're going to be winning the Champions League.
It's going to be lovely.
Saying, if we can beat PSG, who just won it, there's no stopping us.
Yeah, you need to bring me on your channel then.
Have you heard, Jim? Have you heard Frank's record at Stamford Bridge?
No.
So we've gone there in the Premier League era. What now? 33 times, 1 win. He's been there 4 times and won 3.
He's got a good record with Arsenal as well, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lovely.
Another super chat from Chameleon Eye says, I absolutely hate that we've dropped Højbjerg, guys. Man would have thrived in a Frank team. I actually think Frank would have liked Højbjerg. Not just because he's Danish, but I also think that Højbjerg is a kind of player that Frank would really appreciate. A guy who's a bit of like jack of all trades, can kind of do a lot of different things in that centre mid. I think he would have liked it. But you know, we moved him on for a reason, and I'm not really missing him. But I can understand. what he's saying. I think Højbjerg would have done well under Frank. Samuel Lynch says, sell Bergvall, Decky, Van der Ven, Solanke, Udogie, and sign Werner, Mudryk, and Disasi. 100 out of 100 rage bait. Yeah, let's do all that. That sounds like a proper Tottenham transfer window. That's what we want to see. We want our Tottenham back, as Levy would say. Avon Ho says, do we have a defensive coach under Frank's team? We are just so awful last season with the exposed back post always. Oh, I hope so. I hope we would have a defensive coach. Look, he defended very Brentford. Well, look, actually, Brentford conceded similar amount of goals to us, but I think obviously it's probably more to do with the quality of their defenders and the coaching, I would say.
Yeah, and if you look at with the set piece coach, we gave away 11 goals from set pieces last season. Brentford gave away 2. I know it's not the Brentford set piece coach, it's the one that he's worked with before from Manchester United, but it shows how heavily Frank works. Is a key part of his game on both sides of the pitch. So expect a dramatic improvement there as well.
And last one from James Flower says, happy birthday, Brian.
Honestly, I'm going to get so much revenge on this guy. I don't know how, but James Flower, I am coming for you. I am coming for you. Mate, he went on Chris Cowlings. He went on Last Word on Spurs. He went on Sean Butler's, everywhere. Happy birthday, Brian. He's been doing it for 3 days. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. I'm sick of my birthday, and it's not even come yet.
Absolutely phenomenal from James. All right. I'll leave it up there for now. A big up to everyone in the chat. Thank you for everyone for sending in your chats, super chats, and supporting the stream. Big up to Kate and Jimbo. Go subscribe to their channel. I'm going to put the link in the description for all the clips and everything when they go out. So big up to Kate and Jimbo, and looking forward to some pump ups next season. Very much up.
Yes.
Looking forward to some Champions League pump ups. We're getting excited.
I can't wait. I might even sing the Champions League song if you're lucky. Probably not.
Big up to you. Appreciate you coming on, Brian.
Thanks for having us.
No, my pleasure. Brian, appreciate you coming on, mate, and stepping in Ben's absence.
Always. But I will just say very quickly, tonight, 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be starting a new monthly show with a guy called Eugene from San Diego called To Frank or Not to Frank. And obviously you're going to have me being very much to Frank. And Eugene is not quite there yet, but we're going to review every single month, the month gone by of Thomas Frank.
You call it To Be Frank.
Yeah.
So we're going to get guests on as well, but the first one's just going to be me and him. That will be 11 p.m. tonight, UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
All right. And Samuel Lynch quickly with a happy anniversary, Brian.
You know what? I'm just accepting the love early, just in case it's next Sunday. But big up to everyone for the early birthday wishes. Apart from James Flower, you and me are going to be having a disciplinary.
Big up to everyone. Thank you all for tuning into the show. Let's hope Mbeumo can step up and get over the line. We'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.